Chapter 958. Looking at the tentacles and broken tentacles all over the ground, Bacola suddenly understood. Did he do it for the tentacles? It tastes really good. Why don't you try? There's powerful magic in it. You can't eat it casually. Shay looked at Chen Zhao worriedly. Oh, I almost forgot. Chen Zhao rubbed his nose. Achoo, magic allergy. He forgot again that food with magic couldn't be eaten casually. Seeing that Chen Zhao was allergic to magic, Bacola's heart sank. Just as she'd feared, Chen Zhao had magic allergy. If Chen Zhao's condition worsened in a battle like this, the situation would be dangerous. While eating, Chen Zhao rubbed his nose. Barbara, Horst, William, you guys don't want some? Didn't you say I can't eat it? He and I can't, but you can. You can't absorb the magic, so it won't affect you, Shay said. But when she turned to look at Chen Zhao, she realized that he was still eating. Aren't you afraid of death? You know it'll make you allergic to magic, but you're still eating? Delicious. So delicious that you're willing to risk your life? The more you eat, the more serious the magic allergy will be. When I'm in a good condition, I can fight in a good condition. When I'm not, I can fight in a bad condition. Chen Zhao rubbed his nose again. It was red and tears kept flowing out of his eyes. Shay watched as Chen Zhao tore off a large piece of takoyaki and stuffed it into his mouth. This piece was probably 3 or 4 kilograms, right? Her eyes almost popped out. Chen Zhao's appetite was way too big. But she realized that Chen Zhao's right arm kept trembling. Is your right arm hurt? No. But your right arm keeps. It's allergic too. Chen Zhao wiped the grease off his face and turned to look at Acre Pilar. Let's fight. It's not time yet, Acre said. I say fight, so fight. Acre Pilar was speechless at this repetitive human. Since you want to fight, let's fight. Acre snorted coldly. He had already recovered 70% of his mana. But the other party's rest time was so short. So he was definitely not in as good a condition as he was. Acre Pilar returned to Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao raised his right arm and aimed it at him. Bacola looked at Chen Zhao in confusion. What was he doing? Acre Pilar didn't understand either. Does that mean stop? Human, since you started the fight, what is the meaning of this? Achoo! His right arm shook violently. Then a magical current shot out of it. Bang! Half of Acre Pilar's body disappeared in an instant. At the same time, a circular hole was blasted in the spectator stands behind the Colosseum. Everyone was silent. Their mouths were wide open as they stared at Chen Zhao in disbelief. When in good condition, there would be a good way to fight. And when in bad condition, there would be a bad way to fight. Was that what he meant? Is he the Terminator? Is this guy a modified robot? Horst stared at Chen Zhao in shock. It was too terrifying. This kind of impact. It was like a human-shaped self-propelled cannon. Acre Pilar turned around and fled. His injuries greatly reduced his recovery rate. Chen Zhao had blasted half of his body into pieces with a single move. If Chen Zhao had aimed at his main body, he would be dead for sure. But when he turned his head, 2 black monsters had appeared behind him out of nowhere. Did I allow you to leave? Chen Zhao and the 2 black guys spoke at the same time. These 2 black monsters were actually the matriarchs controlled by Chen Zhao. But now, they should be called dark matriarchs. Suddenly, Chen Zhao pounced on Acre from behind and hugged him from behind. Then he chopped off Acre's right arm. Before Acre's right arm could fall, Chen Zhao had already snatched the flame scepter from his hand. Good stuff. This is really good. Chen Zhao tried to pour in mana. A wave of flames shot into the sky. Haha. This is fun. Chen Zhao started playing with the flame scepter. Everyone stared at Chen Zhao speechlessly. He was in the mood to play with a great enemy. Chen Zhao pointed the flame scepter at his right arm and released the flames. Then the mouth of gluttony on his right arm devoured the flames. Chen Zhao felt that he had reached his limit and stopped charging. Then he aimed his right arm at Acre Pilar. Boom! A huge wave of flames exploded on Acre's body. The 3 tentacles were blown away by the explosion. Recover, hurry up and recover. Out of mana? Never mind. I'll give you 10 more minutes to rest, Chen Zhao said. Acre Pilar wanted to cry. He had never seen such a brutal enemy. He was even crueler than a demon like him. Chen Zhao returned to the barbecue stall. Bacola looked at Chen Zhao. She felt that this man was like a mystery. She had no idea what he was going to do next. Weird. Why can't I feel any mana allergy? Chen Zhao had planned to use the same method, but he realized that the effect was much worse. He seemed to have gotten used to Acre's mana. He couldn't absorb it, but it wouldn't cause any allergies. What are those two black things? My former enemy, Chen Zhao said. But I'm controlling them now. The dark matrix was extremely fast. Both of them were on the same level as Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao started to clean up the tentacles and the cooked hidden slither bird. Acre, on the other hand, was planning a counterattack. Chen Zhao was clearly stronger than him. He could feel that Chen Zhao had been playing with him. If Chen Zhao really wanted to kill him, he would have died long ago. Acre began to summon his army. The sound he made couldn't be heard by humans. Huh. Halfway through his meal, Chen Zhao suddenly turned around and looked at Acre. What's wrong? He's summoning his subordinates, Chen Zhao said. Aren't you going to stop him? I think we should give him a chance to struggle. However, a large number of monsters started surging out of the tunnel of the Colosseum. Hundreds of them. There was also the sound of flapping wings. There were also many of them. Large numbers of hidden slither birds and monsters filled the entire Colosseum like an army. Chapter 959. I also think I don't have enough ingredients. A smile appeared on Chen Zhao's face. Shay Bacola stared at Chen Zhao. How much can you eat? You've collected so many ingredients, and you still say it's not enough? Chen Zhao looked at Acre Piler. We can officially start the battle now. Acre Piler raised his hand. Chen Zhao suddenly shouted. Wait. What? Do you want to surrender now? Can you give me a minute to prepare? Shay Bacola stared at Chen Zhao. What's this guy going to do? Then Chen Zhao suddenly split into 12. Shay Bacola sucked in a breath of cold air. Doppelganger? Doppelganger was rare, but it wasn't rare. However, it was really rare for a spiritualist to use a doppelganger spell. But why were the 12 doppelgangers naked? Chen Zhao gave each doppelganger a set of clothes. Only then did everyone understand why Chen Zhao needed a minute to prepare. Go! Chen Zhao ordered. The 12 doppelgangers charged at the same time. The 12 doppelgangers fought against hundreds of monsters and hidden slither birds. One of the doppelgangers smashed a monster's head with a punch. The 12 doppelgangers were shockingly powerful. Chen Zhao didn't go up himself. He dragged a monster's corpse and cut off a piece of meat. Help me cook it. Let's see how it tastes. I'm not your chef, Shay Bacola said with a dark expression. Do you still want the $50,000? You're willing to give me $50,000? With your ability, you don't need my protection at all. You can totally kill your way in and out. Don't think that the $50,000 is for bodyguards. You can also think of it as a temporary chef. This was very hurtful. Shay Bacola thought that she was a professional spiritualist, witch or exorcist. But in Chen Zhao's eyes, she was just a chef. I'll cook for you, and you'll pay $50,000? Of course. I never lie. Shay Bacola used a lightning spell to cook the meat. Chen Zhao took a few bites and nodded in satisfaction. The meat is smooth and tender. The fat content is just right. It's slightly fishy. I need to use seasonings to remove the smell. You didn't come here on purpose to look for ingredients, did you? You wouldn't believe me if I said it was an accident, Chen Zhao said helplessly. Where did you hide everything? There are so many bodies of monsters, but they disappear as soon as you touch them. What kind of magic is this? This spell is called the spell that won't come true if you say it. Ignoring Chen Zhao's nonsense, Shay Bacola looked at the battlefield. The battle was intense, but Chen Zhao's clones started dying. There are simply too many enemies. Your doppelganger doesn't seem to be able to hold on much longer. It's still early, Chen Zhao said unconcerned. Only one had died. Chen Zhao was not worried at all. You're not going to help? Shay Bacola could feel that there was still a huge gap between Chen Zhao's real body and his clone. However, these clones were still very powerful. If it were her, she probably wouldn't even be able to beat one of them. Chen Zhao's clone couldn't use magic. Therefore, he could not use the Mouth of Gluttony or the Eye of Power. Each clone only had about half of Chen Zhao's strength. However, the combat power that 12 doppelgangers could bring was still very high. Chen Zhao was busy cleaning up the corpses of the monsters and hidden slither birds. Shay Bacola saw it all. She didn't understand why Chen Zhao hadn't attacked yet. The rate at which Chen Zhao's clones died was clearly higher than the rate at which the monster army died. If this continued, Chen Zhao's clones would all die before the monster army was completely destroyed. Chen Zhao was still as calm as ever. There were simply too many monsters in the army of monsters. Finally, the last clone was destroyed. By now, Acre Pilar's monster army still had more than half left. Human, you've used up your last trump card. What should you do now? Acre Pilar looked at Chen Zhao proudly. In his mind, he had already imagined how he would torture Chen Zhao after he was defeated. Shea Bacola and the others were anxious. If Chen Zhao had joined the battle earlier, this wouldn't have happened. But it seemed like Chen Zhao didn't care at all. Trump card? You seem to have gotten it wrong. Chen Zhao was still smiling. When did I say that was my trump card? Acre Pilar was a bit wary. Wasn't the clone spell Chen Zhao used just now his trump card? Although he didn't really believe it, he still felt that he had to be on guard. Shea Bacola was also a bit hesitant. She didn't know if Chen Zhao was bluffing, or if he really had a trump card he hadn't used yet. To her, 12 clones was already a very shocking move. If Chen Zhao still had other trump cards he hadn't used, she really couldn't accept it. Was the difference between them really so big that it couldn't be made up for? For a moment, Acre Pilar didn't dare to give the order to attack. Instead, he looked at Chen Zhao warily, wondering if he should give up for now. However, he was unwilling to give up. Chen Zhao had humiliated him time and time again. There was a fire of anger in his heart that had yet to be vented. He wanted to take revenge on Chen Zhao. He wanted to torture Chen Zhao to death in the cruelest way. Do you want to rest? Again? Hearing Chen Zhao's words, everyone, including Acre Pilar, didn't know how to feel. Chen Zhao was like this every time. He had to rest every time. And every time he rested, Chen Zhao would play new tricks. If you want to fight, then fight. What's with all this talk? Are you scared? Acre Pilar said tentatively. You want to fight now? Okay, let's fight. Chen Zhao sat down. Seeing this, Acre Pilar didn't dare to give the order to attack. He didn't know what Chen Zhao was going to do. But the next moment, he saw Chen Zhao take out a musical instrument and place it before him. Is this a trump card? What a joke. What kind of trump card is this? Okay, I'm ready. You can attack, Chen Zhao said. Bluff. This guy is bluffing. Acre Pilar and Shea Bacola both had the same thought. Clang, the guzheng gave off a crisp sound. At that moment, Acre was even more certain that Chen Zhao was bluffing. Attack, attack. Kill him. Kill him. Acre finally gave the order to launch the final attack. Chapter 960. Shea Bacola and the others saw that when the dozens of monsters and hidden slithering birds charged at Chen Zhao, he was still sitting on the ground and playing the guzheng. They were all extremely nervous and worried for Chen Zhao. In their eyes, Chen Zhao was definitely not someone who pretended to be aloof. From the beginning to the end, Chen Zhao had given them the feeling that he was vulgar. But now, this vulgar person was actually sitting on the ground and playing the guzheng in the face of such an attack. What the hell was going on? The moment the monsters reached Chen Zhao, 12 cold beams of light exploded at the same time. Both the invisible hidden slithering birds and the huge monsters were instantly torn to pieces by the beams of light. Their bodies were cut into pieces. The 12 stone swords floated in the air. Chen Zhao's music suddenly changed. The 12 stone swords sliced through the air. There was only a tearing sound in the air. Wherever the stone swords passed, everything was torn to pieces. Everything became fragile and insignificant. When the hidden slithering birds were cut into pieces, their blood dyed their bodies red. The death of the monsters was even more shocking. They didn't know how to face the 12 stone swords at all. To them, it was like a group of people facing a person with a machine gun. No matter how many people there were, they were powerless against a machine gun. The music suddenly became violent. The 12 stone swords also became more intense. All the monsters formed a painting as they were slaughtered and strangled. The 12 stone swords gathered together and formed a circle. Then they started spinning rapidly. This also made them more lethal. They were like rapidly spinning blades or meat grinders. No one had seen this before. The monsters that were supposed to be the slaughterers and torturers were now the ones being tortured. Shea Bacola finally understood what a true trump card was. From the beginning, Chen Zhao had been playing. Chen Zhao had shown great power earlier, but it wasn't aggressive or explosive enough. When he got serious, she finally understood what it meant to slay demons. It was an almost invincible attack. 30 seconds. It was only 30 seconds. Clear the field. The air was filled with the strong smell of blood. Holding the zither, Chen Zhao stood up. The 12 stone swords hovered beside him. The ventilation here isn't very good. You might need to redecorate it. Oh no, you probably don't need to. Acker's body went cold. His monster army was slaughtered just like that. In the past, he thought that with his monster army, he could even compete with middle-level demons. But now, he realized that he couldn't even defeat a human. Chen Zhao seemed to be gesturing with one hand. He gestured to the left, then to the right. Mr. Chen, what are you doing? Cut off the top half, Chen Zhao said. At the same time he pulled the strings. The 12 stone swords attacked at the same time, and Acker's upper body flew up. He had nowhere to hide, nor could he block. Chen Zhao then took out the flame scepter. A stream of flames shot out and burned Acker's lower half. Only then did everyone realize that Chen Zhao was going to roast all of them. A brick landed on Chen Zhao's head. Chen Zhao looked up. The castle was falling apart. Don't you think we should leave? Run! Chen Zhao charged toward the exit. The door at the exit wasn't even useful to Chen Zhao. It was destroyed by Chen Zhao. The others followed closely behind. When they escaped from the castle, they realized that the entire castle was collapsing toward a point. Not just the castle, but everything around it was shrinking toward that point. The mist was also being sucked in. Everything around it was being absorbed. But Chen Zhao and the others didn't feel any attraction. Suddenly they heard a sound. The next moment, something crashed into Chen Zhao. Bang! A sports car had crashed into Chen Zhao, and he fell to the ground. A woman got out of the car. Chen Zhao saw that it was Sharon. Holding his stomach, Chen Zhao fell to the ground and wailed. Ah! I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Shea Bacola and the others stared at Chen Zhao speechless. Could a sports car hurt him? They wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. Even the monsters inside couldn't kill him. A mere sports car couldn't hurt Chen Zhao at all. Sharon was also confused. Chen Zhao and the others had appeared in front of her car out of nowhere. She walked up to Chen Zhao and took a closer look. The person wearing only his underwear was actually Chen Zhao. How come it's you? Chen Zhao peeked at Sharon and then shouted even louder. Why are you standing on the road in your underwear? I'm going to the hospital. I feel terrible. I'm going to the hospital. Chen Zhao didn't want to answer this embarrassing question. Miss, we met a robber. We were robbed, Shea Bacola said as she stepped forward. The lucky survivors, Barbara and Horst, also understood. This was clearly the best answer. Robbed. Sharon realized that they were all dirty. It indeed looked like they'd been robbed. Especially Chen Zhao, who wasn't wearing anything. Haha. You were robbed. I'm dying of laughter. Sharon laughed so hard that she was about to cry. Are you that happy that I was robbed? Lying on the ground, Chen Zhao said gloomily. You're a cop. Aren't you injured? Why didn't you scream? I'm tired. Chen Zhao didn't want to keep pretending. A while later, Sharon called the police. David was the one leading the team. David pulled Chen Zhao to the side. Chen, what exactly happened? You said you were robbed. I don't believe you. Do you remember the mirror space created by the mirror demon? Chen Zhao said helplessly. Last night, when I came back from Las Vegas, I saw a mirror space on the road. I killed the boss of the space and then came out. They're all survivors. What kind of battle did you go through? You even knocked off your clothes. It wasn't smashed, it was burned. That monster can breathe fire. I really want to take the risk with you. Stop it, Chen Zhao said shamelessly. If I were alone, I could easily take care of it. If I didn't have to take care of the three, I would have come out long ago. Actually, I've been learning some supernatural knowledge from Sienna recently. That stingy person. She actually charged me tuition. Okay, send me home now. I've been working hard for the whole night, Chen Zhao said tiredly. Oh, come to my house tonight. I've prepared a lot of delicious food. I caught many delicious monsters in the mirror space this time. I cooked them all. David didn't refuse either. Hearing that Chen Zhao ate monsters, He was also very excited. Okay, when does the party start? Chapter 961. Seeing Chen Zhao return in David's car. Fei Lai knew that his trip had not been peaceful. Hi Fei Lai. After getting out, David went up and hugged her gently. Fei Lai looked at David's car. Why isn't Chen coming out? Why is he in the back seat? Don't tell me you're handcuffing him? Chen, you're already at the door. Are you still not willing to come out? Chen Zhao finally came out. When Fei Lai saw that he only had his underwear on, she almost burst out laughing. Darling, what happened to you? He was robbed. Robbed? Fei Lai stared at him, her eyes wide. Did God disguise himself as a robber? Darling, I thought you'd comfort me. All right, I've sent your man back. I should go now. After David left, Chen Zhao hurriedly took a shower and changed into a set of clean clothes. Fei Lai, I found a lot of good food for you. Chen Zhao took out the grilled octopus tentacles and slitting bird. You found this last night? Yes, I met someone who was blind, Chen Zhao said. Try it and see if you like it. It's good, just a bit bland. Fei Lai really liked the taste. Whether it was the grilled octopus tentacles or the roasted meat of the sundering stealth bird, both of them were very nutritious. Pregnant women were very sensitive to nutrients. Sometimes their bodies would instinctively search for nutritious food. Fei Lai was the same. She really liked the taste. I still have a lot of fresh ingredients. Have the underlings cooked them again? The underlings also started getting busy for the party tonight. First, there were some snacks. They were already placed on plates. Then there was hot food suitable for the party. A few days ago, Chen Zhao and Fei Lai had started inviting friends and family. Today, they confirmed again to see if they would come. Stephen, I promise you that you'll be able to eat a lot of new food at the party tonight. That's what you said. If I'm not satisfied, I'll smash your party. As long as you don't want a takeaway when the time comes, you can destroy my place. Really? I can't wait. I want to go now. Don't come too early. I'm not ready yet. It was mainly because he didn't want people to see the inferior demons. Usually, when guests came, Chen Zhao could have the underlings hide, but there were too many things for them to handle today. If the guests came too early, the underlings wouldn't be able to work. All right. At this moment, a car arrived at the door. Eula and Cheryl ran out of the car. Why are you guys here? Chen Zhao was surprised that Yura and Cheryl had come together. Although he had also informed the two of them, they had informed him separately. Cheryl, where are Chris and Sienna? They'll be here at night. Yura and I came over to play first. All right, you guys go play in the forest first. I'll let Princess and the rest accompany you. Right now we're still preparing for the party, so it's a bit messy. Fei Lai came up and gave them 2 portions of roasted food. Bant, Mary, and the Kin family were the first to arrive in the evening. They also brought their own wheat beer. Because they both lived in a small town, the 2 families were very close. They had come early to help as well. You 3 go sit down. You're guests, not mediocre people. Fei Lai went up to serve them. I can't sit down, Mary said. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai had no choice but to let her help. Thankfully, everything was almost ready now. The inferior demons had already hidden themselves. Del Fisher and Risfar's family had come together. The most tiring part of a party wasn't the servants but the hosts. This was because the 2 hosts had to treat every guest with all their heart. They couldn't neglect every guest. More and more guests came, and the atmosphere became more and more like a party. All the guests were full of praise for Chen Zhao's food and wine. Stephen put his hand on Chen Zhao's shoulder. Chen, what species is that tentacle? Although it's very small, I can see that the size of this octopus is definitely not small. Of course, a tentacle weighed more than 10 tons. How could it be small? Chen Zhao had only taken out a few tenths of a tentacle. If he took out the entire tentacle, the guests might not even be able to finish it. First, they might not even be able to cook it. It's a deep-sea octopus, a very special species. It's indeed very big. Because it lives in the deep sea that humans can't reach, it's almost impossible to catch. It's not even available on the market. Then give me a few. How many did I give you? Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. I asked my friends for help too. A few of them died before I got to. How many died? When they dove into the deep sea, Their diving goggles exploded and they died. When they were dragged out, they were like mud. Stephen gasped. It's that scary. What's the other two meat? I can't taste it at all. Chen Zhao whispered into Stephen's ear. They're all protected animals. Don't tell others, or I'll be in trouble too. Okay. Wait. You didn't think of this answer to reject me, right? How is that possible? Am I that stingy? With your vision, if it was ordinary food, how could it be hidden from you? That's true. What animal is it? I can't say. Petty. I don't care. I'm going to pack one tonight. I already prepared it for you, Chen Zhao said. This time, Chen Zhao had collected a lot of ingredients in the mirror space on Route 666. He might not be able to finish it even in 100 or 1,000 parties, let alone one. Just then Leonardo ran over. Mr. Stephen, can I get your autograph? Of course. Leonardo wasn't the only one who asked for Stephen's autograph. Stephen didn't put on airs at all. He didn't reject anyone who asked for an autograph. Play by yourself. I'm going to entertain the others. Go. Don't neglect the others. Stephen often had parties, so he knew that Chen Zhao couldn't keep him company all the time. Regardless of whether the guests were close or distant, since he'd invited them to the party, he couldn't be distant. This was the courtesy of a host. From afar, Chen Zhao could hear Caprice and Ethan arguing. The two still had their old tempers. They would hurt each other whenever they saw each other. Chen Zhao didn't know if the two stubborn old men still had feelings for each other. When Chen Zhao walked over, Wright also walked over. Chapter 962. Wright couldn't be bothered with Ethan and Caprice. But Wright's words stopped the quarrel between the two of them. They looked at each other awkwardly. There was still resentment in their eyes. But they didn't want to argue in front of Wright. Chun, let's go sit over there, Wright invited. Chen Zhao couldn't reject Wright. The two sat on the rooftop. Wright really liked the layout of Chen Zhao's house. After all, it was designed by her great-grandson. It was said that taste could be passed down from generation to generation. So, it wasn't strange that Wright liked it. Chun, you haven't been to school in a long time. Have you forgotten your other identity? How about I go once a week starting next year? No, I'll arrange a class for you next year. You have to teach me for at least a semester. Right, I'm afraid I'm too busy. Wright saw that Chen Zhao wasn't very willing to accept it. She didn't want to force him. But she also felt that it would be a waste if Chen Zhao didn't have a few students with his amazing medical skills. At least your classes will be twice as many as last year. Wright took a step back. You can also teach a few interns. Can I think about it? You have to give me an answer soon. After all, school starts in February. The school has to arrange the classes in advance. I'll give you an answer as soon as possible, Chen Zhao said. Oh, I can't even tell where your food is from, or what species it is, Wright said. You don't have some rare animals, do you? Don't joke around. I'm a firm supporter of the Animal Protection Association. Chen Zhao fully displayed his ability to speak in human language and ghost language. Also, the so-called rare animals might not be delicious. Wright didn't continue pestering Chen Zhao. She knew that Chen Zhao had too many guests to take care of. Then David and Leonardo dragged Chen Zhao to drink. Everyone partied until midnight. Tonight was the welcome party, so the atmosphere was very lively. Fei Lai couldn't take it anymore, and went to rest first. The bell rang at midnight. Chen Zhao lit the fireworks. The entire mirror lake was lit up. Everyone was partying, and the atmosphere was even more lively. Chen Zhao had found enough chauffeurs to escort his customers home one by one. After all, most of the guests were drunk. Chen Zhao did not want to attend his welcome party today, and their funerals tomorrow. All the guests had left, except for Yura and Cheryl. They were arranged to sleep. The inferior demons also began to clean up the inside and outside of the mansion. Chen Zhao took the wine and entered the river map. Happy New Year, Old Turtle. I'm here to drink with you. Old Turtle was Chen Zhao's senior. He couldn't attend the party, but Chen Zhao couldn't ignore him. Chen Zhao and Old Turtle were both drunk. Of course, maybe Old Turtle was just pretending to be drunk in front of Chen Zhao. Old Turtle, have you thought about going out? Chen Zhao asked in a drunken voice. I have thought about it, but I can't get out. This is Lady Nuwas by Sima. I don't want to force it anymore, Old Turtle said calmly. If the river diagram is destroyed, can you come out? First of all, the river diagram is an ancient divine artifact. It's not something you can destroy with your mediocre skills. Second, destroying the river diagram will only destroy me too. You can't let me out, but I still thank you. In the middle of the night, Chen Zhao came out of the river diagram and returned to Fei Lai's side. He spent the first night with her. Chen Zhao really enjoyed his current life and treasured it. On the 5th day after the new year, the people of the supernatural organization all returned from Cape Town. Everyone had a great time on this trip. Chen Zhao organized another banquet for them. Most of them were useless, but they were all Chen Zhao's subordinates. Mr. Chen, the main building of your project is finished. You can come and take a look when you have time. I'll go tomorrow, Chen Zhao said. The next day, Chen Zhao brought all the members over. After all, the headquarters didn't belong to Chen Zhao alone. He had to let his subordinates confirm if there was anything that needed to be changed or added. Is this our new headquarters? Emoer was still a child. He was the most excited about the new headquarters. Yes, what do you think? Chen Zhao said. Is there anything that needs to be changed or improved? You can bring it up now. Felwood Cisco accompanied everyone. He was very curious about who Chen Zhao's subordinates were. But after looking for a long time, he still couldn't figure them out. Chen Zhao's subordinates were very complicated. There were adults, children, and the elderly. President, I want a shooting range, Cass said. Chen Zhao turned to Felwood. Mr. Felwood, can you add a shooting range? Of course. Felwood agreed without hesitation. Chen Zhao's budget was more than enough. He wished that these people would make more requests, so that he could use up as much of his budget as possible. Plus, as long as someone made a request, Chen Zhao wouldn't reject. Even Felwood wanted to be Chen Zhao's subordinate. Chen Zhao didn't even blink when spending money. President, if the artificial lake isn't connected to running water, it'll easily stink, West said. I think we can connect it to a river in the mountains. Sure, Mr. Felwood. Think about which river is closer, and then connect it to the artificial lake. There are indeed a few rivers nearby. They all flow out of the mountains. The best way is to bring in water from the Longjing River, and then connect it to the Los Angeles River. The water will flow out and become running water. Felwood Cisco quickly came up with a plan. Let's do that. President, I think our association needs to add a helicopter, so it's best to build 2 helipads. Oh, it's also best to build a small runway and add 2 small propeller planes. Chen Zhao thought for a moment and asked, Mr. Felwood, is the budget enough? Yes, a small runway costs about $1 million. It's fine as long as the site is big enough. Mr. Chen's land is very big, so there aren't any other problems. As for the helipad, it's even cheaper. It's just a supplementary construction, so there's no need to increase the budget. Then let's build it. Chen Zhao looked at Cass. Cass, your people all know how to fly planes, right? Yes. Then I'll leave the purchase of the helicopter and propeller planes to you. After you decide on the model, talk to West. Chapter 963. The association had enough funds now. If they didn't use it, it would just rust in the bank. Last year, they still had $2 million left. Even when they sent all of them to Cape Town for 20 days, they only spent $300,000. Funds were meant to be squandered. This was Chen Zhao's philosophy. The association members also had their first meeting in the new headquarters. Of course, the content of the meeting was to tell everyone to work hard in the new year. They had to carry out every mission seriously and increase their strength at the same time. The new headquarters also had its first guests. They weren't members of the association, but prisoners sent to the dungeon by Klaus and the others. They were the people who released the crocodiles in the river outside Mirror Lake. The puppeteer Chainin was also one of the guests. Chen Zhao and the association members visited the dungeon. The environment here was great. At least, it wasn't creepy like before. Of course, the torture tools were much better than before. Chun, our new movie is starting to cast. Do you want to come and watch? Steven called Chen Zhao. I don't know anything. What's there to watch? You're one of the people involved anyway. You have the right to speak. Just come and watch. Okay. Chen Zhao indeed didn't have much to do after the new year. He didn't have any clients either. Other than at home, he only walked around the headquarters. When Chen Zhao arrived at the audition site, there was a sea of people outside. It was a terrifying scene. Chen Zhao estimated that there were at least 300 actors. "Steven, I'm at the door," Chen Zhao said. "Call someone to pick me up." "You're here?" Steven said. "Don't come in first. Just blend into the crowd and see if there are suitable candidates or actors that need to be eliminated." Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. Steven was treating him like a laborer. "Hey, brother, are you here for the audition too?" A curly-haired young man patted Chen Zhao's shoulder. "Which company are you from?" "Air." "I don't have a company." "No company? Then you don't have a good chance," the curly-haired young man said. "I heard that many famous actors from Asia are here for the audition. I heard that Mr. Steven's new movie has a very important role that will be played by an Asian. Mr. Steven also wants to invite actors who are already famous in Asia." Chen Zhao wasn't too surprised. After all, Steven had already told Chen Zhao about this. Steven was also interested in choosing actors from China. "What about you? What role are you auditioning for?" "A villain, a role with a few minutes of screen time," the curly-haired young man said. "I'm a student at the Southern California Film School. What about you, Bank? How should I address you?" Chen Zhao answered. "I'm unorthodox. You're like most of the people here," Ban Ke said. "Everyone is trying their luck. After all, as long as they act in Mr. Steven's movie, it means that they will become famous, including me." Right now in Hollywood, Steven was a golden signboard. Not only were his movies popular, but even if he only had the title of an editor, it still had a huge market appeal. Although James had gotten rid of the title of the new director, he knew very well that his ability was far from his current level. Although Animal Mart was an unprecedented success, James knew that if Steven hadn't reached out to help him, he would probably be one of the directors who were down and out. Therefore, he had always claimed that Steven's editing was the biggest contributor to the movie's success. This also caused Steven's reputation to rise to another level. With just one edit, Animal Mart, which had a small budget, became a godly movie. Therefore, people didn't doubt Steven's ability at all. Therefore, his new movie also received a lot of attention. In the past 2 days, Steven and Rasfa jointly released the news of a new movie. All the headlines of the entertainment media in America were about Steven's new movie. Some people even dug out the content of the new movie. All of Hollywood was in an uproar. Even the international entertainment industry was in an uproar. The Asian entertainment industry was the most excited. After all, Steven was going to choose an actor from Asia to play a very important role. Of the 3 main roles, 2 were old Caucasians. But there was a male bodyguard, the third one, who was an Asian male. The whole movie was about the Iron Triangle, so the Asian male character became very interesting. This also caused all the Asian entertainment companies to send a list of suitable male actors to Steven's desk for him to choose from. Among them, the reaction from the entertainment companies in China, Japan, and South Korea was the most intense. After all, these 3 were the biggest movie markets in Asia. Among them, the Chinese and Japanese stars should be the most competitive. This was because China was the second biggest movie market in the world, while Japan was the third. In terms of character setting, it was a Chinese. Now everyone was using their own strengths, trying to help their artists succeed. Chen Zhao walked a few rounds outside and was picked up by Famutus. He also put up the name of Bonko, whom he had met outside, so that he could at least pass the first round of auditions. As for whether Bonko could be chosen later on, Chen Zhao tried not to interfere. After all, as an outsider, if he criticized the movie too much, it might cause the movie to fail. Even though Steven absolutely respected his right to choose, Chen Zhao didn't think he had to use his power. Although Chen Zhao had a China complex, he still let Steven take the lead when it came to choosing actors. If he let a domestic fresh meat play his role, Chen Zhao felt that the movie would be half ruined. So Chen Zhao would rather let a foreign actor play his role. Chen Ke had been in China for the past few days, because the movie Animal Supermarket that she had acted in was being screened in China. As the second female lead, She had almost the same amount of scenes as the first female lead. This caused Chen Ke's fame to skyrocket in the domestic entertainment industry. China was also her home ground, so the entire publicity team was led by Chen Ke. Even James had to be polite to Chen Ke. Of course, a large part of it was because of Chen Zhao. Steven's editing was definitely indispensable for his movie's success this time. Steven was willing to edit for him completely because of Chen Zhao. So as Chen Zhao's cousin, Chen Ke's treatment in the crew was no less than the female lead. Even if the heroine complained about it again and again, no one would care about her complaints. Chapter 964. She was hailed as an international superstar after acting in one movie. It was the same in every country's entertainment industry. Actually, this was also a God-making movement, especially in countries like China, which was a second-world country. Chen Ke had now become a star pursued by the whole nation. Originally, Chen Ke was just a rising star in the country, but now, she had become an international superstar. This sudden change in status made Chen Ke feel a little at a loss. A call came in and Chen Ke picked it up. Other than Chen Ke's relatives, the only person who could call Chen Ke directly was her boss, Zhou Xiaonan. Zhou Xiaonan was the boss of Guangyu culture, and she was the one who discovered Chen Ke. From the moment she acted in her first movie, she was recognized by the public. Then, through her connections in Hollywood, she was recommended to James. After acting as the second female lead in James' movie, it was like she was riding a rocket. Her status skyrocketed, and she was even given the title of an international superstar. Even Zhou Xiaonan didn't expect Chen Ke's road to fame to be so fast and smooth. Ako. Zhou Xiaonan's tone was unprecedentedly gentle. It couldn't be helped. Although Chen Ke had only debuted for a short time, her achievements far surpassed the other artists in the company. Now, all the other artists in the company had to call Chen Ke sister. She might not be the top actress in the entertainment industry, but in Guangyu culture, she was the well-deserved top actress. What was a top actress? It wasn't just about making money for the company. Some young stars would only be popular for 1 or 2 years. In 1 or 2 years, they might be able to earn 1 or 200 million yuan for the company. But after 1 or 2 years, they would disappear from the world. To be able to bear the title of top actress, first of all, she had to have popularity and influence. Secondly, it was style. To put it bluntly, it was pretentious. Either she didn't endorse, or she endorsed an international brand. The role she took was definitely the #1 role, or a main role in Hollywood. Chen Ke now had the capital to do so. She could even get the female lead in Hollywood now. So, Chen Ke deserved the title of top actress. Sister Zhou, what's the matter? Chen Ke asked. Can you give me a chance? I want to meet Mr. James. Chen Ke smiled bitterly. It was this kind of request again. During this period of time, she had received all kinds of calls. There was only one subject, and that was to see Mr. James. Besides wanting to get closer to James, he also wanted to ask James about Mr. Stevens' new movie. Chen Ke also heard about Mr. Stevens' new movie. She had been considering whether she should fight for a role. That was Mr. Steven they were talking about. If she fought for it, she would have a great chance. Not to mention her qualifications and acting skills. Her relationship with Hu Jinyao had brought her great benefits. For example, his cousin, although their relationship was not very close, at least they were relatives. James had also said that if she fought for a role, Steven might arrange one for her because of Chen Zhao. However, Chen Ke couldn't get over herself. She had never thought that she had relied on connections to fight her way into the entertainment industry. But now, she had to use a relative who wasn't even on good terms with her, to get a role. This made her feel very uncomfortable. Sister, it's not that I don't want to arrange it for you, Chen Ke said with a bitter smile. Mr. James' schedule is too tight. James would only stay in China for 3 days at most. He would go to the capital Shanghai and then Guangzhou. 3 days of promotion in 3 cities. He wouldn't stop for a single moment. Can you help me ask about the casting of Mr. Stevens' new movie? Sure, I'll help you. Oh, help me pass this message. If Mr. James can help our artist get that role, our company is willing to pay any price, even if it's pay or nothing. Not to mention zero pay, they could even pay for it. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Sure, I'll help you, Chunke said. But sister, it's useless if it's just me. You have to bring someone to America for an interview too. Mr. Stevens' requirements are very strict. If the person isn't there, he won't choose him no matter how powerful his background is. Okay, who do you think is suitable in our company? The character is set to be 28 years old, so there are only 3 people under the age of 3. Sis, I don't need to tell you. I think you know what to do. You can try out all 3 of them and see who can enter the second round of auditions. Then you can try to send them in. Okay, I'll arrange for them to go to America. But if you want to attend Mr. Stevens' audition, we won't be able to do it. If they focused all their resources on the 3 actors, they would definitely neglect Chunke. Sister, I have my own path. Don't worry about me, Chunke said. Oh, you have your own path. Zhou Xiaonan was a little surprised. She knew Chunke. She had entered the entertainment industry alone. Her parents were university professors, and she had never heard that she had any connections. I might not have any connections in China, but I can still help Mr. Steven. Zhou Xiaonan was shocked. She didn't expect Chunke to be so confident. She didn't have connections in China, but she had connections with Steven? Can you help our company's male actor? Sister, I can't help you with this. After all, I have to fight for a role too, Chunke said. Besides, I need a favor. It'll be used up after one time. Then okay, Zhou Xiaonan said helplessly. But Chunke's words made Zhou Xiaonan look at her in a different light. She didn't expect Chunke to use a favor to help Steven. Now that Chunke was already very popular, if she acted in Steven's movie, her popularity would soar. By then, she would definitely become the most popular female star in China. Of course, Chunke had her own ambitions. After all, who didn't want to be a big star in the entertainment industry? Chunke thought for a while and called James. Mr. James, I want to ask you, is there a suitable role for me in Mr. Stevens' new movie? Yes, the wife of the Asian male character is set to be the wife of a Chinese man, James said. Why do you want to compete for this role? If you do, then you have a good chance. As long as your cousin is willing to help you, Mr. Steven will definitely give you this role. This is equivalent to the female lead, right? Will Mr. Steven give me this chance? Chapter 965. Chunke didn't think that her cousin could influence Steven to this extent. After thinking for a long time, Chunke decided to go to America. Wang Lu, after the promotion in China, will go to America. Help me book a ticket to Los Angeles. Chen Zhao was quite relaxed these few days. There was basically nothing for him to worry about. As for Steven asking him to pick actors, he just went to take a look. Those who were pleasing to the eye would help him mention it. Those who were not pleasing to the eye would also help him mention it. When he got home, Cheryl and Yura were still at his house. The theme of the 2 of them is always noisy. They also became Jerlin's role models. Every day, Jerlin would go crazy with them. Recently, Jerlin could already run, although she would occasionally fall. Just then, a car stopped in front of Chen Zhao's house. When Chen Zhao walked out, he realized that it was Chunke and Wang Lu. But Wang Lu didn't get out. Chunke walked up to Chen Zhao. Cousin, why are you here? Chen Zhao was surprised. Auntie told me that your girlfriend is pregnant, Chunke said. She asked me to bring some Changbai ginseng from China for you. Chen Zhao's eyes brightened. Codenopsis had great nourishing, stomach and spleen effects. This was especially true for pregnant women, because they weren't suitable for chemical medicines. Chen Zhao would avoid even some nutrient supplies. However, Codenopsis was the best tonic for pregnant women. Because of pregnancy reactions, pregnant women would also have malnutrition and digestive problems. Codenopsis could correct these symptoms. As long as they didn't overdose, pregnant women would be healthier. The effect of Changbai ginseng was even better. After slicing Changbai ginseng, 2 slices of Changbai ginseng could be steamed with bone broth for an hour, which would be very nourishing for pregnant women. Of course, it wasn't good to add too many slices. No matter how good something was, eating too much wouldn't be good. Thank you, Chen Zhao said sincerely. Changbai ginseng was hard to get even in China, let alone abroad. There were also Changbai ginseng plantations in China, but the effects of the 1- and 2-year-old ginseng were much worse than the wild ones. The Changbai ginseng that Chen Ke brought to him had big heads and long whiskers, and different sizes. This was because of the difference in the soil, so the growth of the rhizome was also different. When he put it in front of his nose and sniffed, he could smell the fragrance of ginseng. These were all collected from the mountains by the ginseng gatherers. Each of them was a precious wild ginseng. Chen Zhao had done some research on Chinese medicine, so he knew about ginseng. "Come in and sit," Chen Zhao said. "Okay." Chen Ke didn't refuse. Chen Zhao glanced at Wang Lu. "She's not coming in." "Forget it," Chen Ke said indifferently. Wang Lu had clashed with Chen Zhao before, so she didn't want to face him. Chen Ke didn't like her either, so she didn't want them to have another conflict. "Hello, Miss Fei Lai." Chen Ke greeted when she saw Fei Lai coming down. "Hello, Miss Chen." Chen Ke took out another box. "Miss Fei Lai, I brought this from China. It's for you." Fei Lai looked at Chen Zhao, who nodded. No matter what the gift was, he would accept it first. "Thank you." Fei Lai returned the favor. She also took out a bottle of nameless wine. "Miss Chen, this is for you. Please don't reject it." After exchanging some pleasantries, Chen Ke left. Right after Chen Ke left, Rupert came. Chen Zhao was very surprised by Rupert's arrival. Chen Zhao and Rupert hadn't been close. At least compared to Sienna, Chen Zhao only knew Rupert. Rupert looked like a little girl, but she was actually already in her 20s. For the past 20 years, she had been sealed by her mother, who was also her teacher. "Chen, can I stay here for a few days?" Rupert asked. Chen Zhao thought for a moment. "Give me a reason first. Where's your teacher? Why isn't she by your side?" Chen Zhao realized that Camilla, who'd always been with Rupert, wasn't by her side. "She's crazy. She wants to work with Sienna and seal me again." Chen Zhao picked up his phone, about to call Sienna. No, I'll give you money. I'll only stay for one night." Rupert quickly stopped Chen Zhao. "Why do they want to seal you? Did you take on another mission to kill people and rob them?" "No, definitely not," Rupert quickly said. "I don't know why either. Why do you think I'll help you? After all, I'm not familiar with you. I'm more familiar with Sienna. I can give Fei Lai and your child a blessing," Rupert said. "It's a very special blessing spell." "What kind of blessing?" "Life commendation," Rupert said. "Those who receive life commendation will be free from illness forever. They won't get sick for the rest of their lives." "There's such a blessing spell?" Chen Zhao asked, surprised. "Of course," Rupert said proudly. "I'm a genius." Chen Zhao had heard from Sienna that Rupert was a second night awakener, so her talent in magic was very high. "This spell can't be cast so easily, right?" Chen Zhao said, squinting. "That's none of your business. Just accept it or not." Rupert's words weren't clear, so Chen Zhao didn't dare to agree. If Sienna had suggested this, Chen Zhao would have gladly accepted it. But Rupert had never been reliable, and her personality was also rather extreme. Before Chen Zhao could confirm the safety of this blessing spell, he wouldn't accept it. "I promise you that there won't be any danger or side effects." "I still refuse," Chen Zhao said. "If you can't explain yourself, I'll tell Sienna directly." "You asterisk shoal, I shouldn't have trusted you." Just then Chen Zhao's phone rang. Rupert saw Sienna's call on his screen. Rupert turned to run, but Chen Zhao's hand was already on her shoulder. "Hey Sienna, what's up? Chen, is Rupert at your place?" "Yes," Chen Zhao said. "Did she say something to you?" "Not much yet, but I'm curious what you guys want to do. Since she went to find you, you should protect her well." "Can you tell me what happened?" Chen Zhao asked. "It's okay." Sienna hung up. Frowning, Chen Zhao looked at Rupert. "Tell me what's going on." Chapter 966. "Rupert, why are you here?" When Cheryl saw Rupert, she was a little surprised. "You can come, but I can't." "That's not what I mean." "That's what you mean." Rupert stared at Cheryl aggressively. "That's what I mean. What do you want?" Cheryl wasn't someone anyone could bully, especially because of Sienna. She and Rupert weren't on the same path. "Do you want to die?" Rupert was about to use magic to scare Cheryl when she felt a murderous aura from afar. Chen Zhao, who was sitting in the front yard, shot her a murderous look. Rupert immediately restrained herself. Little wolf girl, be careful next time. At noon, the family sat at the table for lunch. Rupert and Cheryl stared at each other with hostility. If Chen Zhao wasn't here, the two might start fighting each other. I hope that in my home, in my territory, the two of you will behave yourself. I don't want Amon to take you out to sea for a spin. As long as she doesn't mess with me, I won't do anything to her, Rupert said. I'm not afraid of you. Cheryl was stubborn too. Rupert immediately slammed the table and stood up. Do you want to fight? Sure. Why would I be afraid of you? Come on, let's fight. Feilai didn't mind at all. She liked liveliness and kids fighting. To her, it was normal for kids to fight. Usually it was just her, Chen Zhao, and a bunch of animals at home. Now that there were a few kids, the house became lively. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Jerlin was the most excited one. She kept calling out as if she was going to fight. Chen Zhao knocked on the table. Have you already forgotten what I said a moment ago? Cheryl and Rupert parted on bad terms during lunch. However, they still fought openly and secretly in places Chen Zhao couldn't see. As long as they didn't fight, Chen Zhao didn't care. Mr. Stephen, I want to audition for the role of the Asian man's wife. Chen Ke entered the audition set and approached Stephen. Although they were all auditions for roles, famous actors were different from ordinary actors and actresses. Famous actors could meet Stephen directly, and Stephen would personally interview them and make a decision. Most actors had to go through layers of screening, and they might not even get to see Stephen in the end. Huh? Stephen looked at the information that Chen Ku handed him in surprise. Does Chen know about this? Stephen asked. Chen Ku thought to herself that her cousin's position in Stephen's heart was really high. His first question was not to ask himself about acting, but to ask his cousin. I don't know, Chen Ku answered. The character is based on your cousin, Stephen said. Chen Ku's heart skipped a beat, but she remained calm. It's just a role in the movie. It has nothing to do with reality. That's true. Compared to other actors, you have an advantage in this aspect, Stephen said. Of course, he would not casually decide on an important role, and Chen Ku did have an advantage in this aspect. First of all, she was Chen Zhao's cousin, so she would definitely come into contact with him. Moreover, she had her own fame, acting skills, and the China market behind her. They were all above average. They had also worked together once before. Although it was very short, Stephen still had a good impression of Chen Ku. Actually, the role of an Asian man's wife could be played by either an Asian or a Western woman. It was not completely confirmed yet. A more professional evaluation was needed before a decision could be made. What's your salary? Stephen asked. $2 million. This salary was considered the level of a second-tier star in Hollywood. Compared to Stephen, this was indeed a good deal at a low price. Stephen thought for a moment and said, Personally, I'm more inclined to invite you to join the crew, but I can't give you an accurate answer yet. Okay, Mr. Stephen. I understand. I look forward to your answer. This script is part of your audition lines. Take it back and study it. I'll notify you for the second audition in 3 days. Whether you succeed or not, I'll give you an answer. Thank you, Mr. Stephen. Actually, with Stephen's words, Chen Ku was already 70% confident that she could get the role. After Chen Ku left the audition room, Stephen picked up the phone. Hey Chen, do you know that your cousin is here for the audition? Oh, she's here for the audition. Chen Zhao was somewhat surprised, but it seemed to be reasonable. Yes, she's auditioning for the role of your character's wife. She's not suitable? No, she's very suitable, Stephen answered. Oh, if you think she's suitable then use her, Chen Zhao said. Okay, then it's settled. Stephen actually already had a plan. He gave Chen Ku the script not to see if she was suitable, but to evaluate how many scenes she could get. Actually, the main characters of the movie were 2 old men and an Asian man. To put it simply, it was a drama for men. Chen Ku was auditioning for the female lead role. But in terms of scenes, she was only a supporting actress. However, probably no female star in Hollywood could reject the role of the female lead in Stephen's movie. When Chen Ku walked out of the set, Wang Lu walked up to her. Aku, how was it? Not bad. Aku's lips curled into a smile. She might not be 90% confident in the audition, but she was at least 70 to 80% confident. That's good. Before they could take 2 steps, they saw a car stop beside them. Zhou Xiaonan was leading 3 people out of the car. Sister Nan. Chen Ku looked at the 4 in surprise. She did not expect to meet them so coincidentally. Zhou Xiaonan was also surprised to see Chen Ku here. Sister Ake. The 3 actors were all older than Chen Ku, but when they saw her, they all called her sister. This was very common in the entertainment industry. Experience meant everything. Ake, why are you here? I just finished the audition, Chen Ku said. Oh. You auditioned? How was it? I'm not sure, Chen Ku said tactfully. Just then Chen Ku's phone rang. Zhou Xiaonan found that Chen Ku's caller ID was Steven. She actually had Steven's number. Hello, Mr. Steven. Miss Chun, after the evaluation, my team and I have decided to sign the contract with you. You might have to come again tomorrow. I'll prepare the contract then. Okay, Mr. Steven. Thank you. Chen Ku and Steven's conversation was overheard by the people around them. Chapter 967. They had heard that several A-list Hollywood actresses were competing for the role, but they didn't expect Chen Ku to get it. By now, everyone's expression had changed. She was going to play the role of Steven, and it wasn't a supporting role but a main role. This meant that Chen Ku was one step closer to becoming a superstar. At first, Zhou Xiaonan had thought that Chen Ku had said that she had her own connections to protect her reputation. But now it seemed that she had underestimated Chen Ku's connections. After all, Zhou Xiaonan was the head of an entertainment company. She knew very well how complicated it was to choose a main role in a movie. It was a game that concerned the company and the exchange of interests. It wasn't a role that could be obtained by selling one's body. Forget about Hollywood. Just look at the domestic entertainment industry. Some actors relied on unspoken rules to get a role that wasn't popular. But the main role would never rely on unspoken rules to get a role. Aku, the 3 of them are here for the audition too. Why don't you take them to see Mr. Steven? Sister, you're making things difficult for me. What a joke. She had just gotten the role herself. Taking 3 irrelevant people to see Steven? She wouldn't dare to do such a thing even if she ate a bear's heart or a leopard's gall. It would leave Steven with a feeling that he didn't know when to advance or retreat. And a director hated actors who didn't know when to advance or retreat. Zhou Xiaonan knew that her request was a little too much. But she couldn't do anything about it. After all, her connections were all in China. When she came to Hollywood, her connections were of no use at all. Now that she had brought 3 male actors, she could only submit their resumes to Steven's studio. Although it was an arranged audition, Steven wouldn't be doing it himself. Instead, it would be done by several assistant directors. These assistant directors only had the power to send them to the next audition, but they didn't have the power to decide whether they would stay or not. Of course, the 3 male actors she brought this time were also of a certain standard. Li Qingyang, 28, used to be a popular male idol in China. After his popularity gradually declined, he changed his profession and took on many roles that tested his acting skills. But he had never returned to his peak. Wang He, 27 years old, was still a popular newbie. He was extremely popular in the country, and was also the company's money-making king. Even Chen Ku had to concede defeat to him. Zhang Mao, 26 years old, had won the Best Supporting Actor award at a local film festival. His fame and popularity were not high, but his acting skills were the best. As this was a Hollywood audition, popularity in the country was basically useless. Therefore, the 3 of them were considered to be on the same starting line. Then, Zhou Xiaonan brought them to the set. The first round of auditions was very easy, and the 3 of them easily passed. Actually, the first round was not really an audition. As long as one had some aptitude, it would not be difficult for them to pass the first round. The second round was a makeup audition, and the third round was Steven's personal audition. After leaving the set, the 3 of them relaxed. Don't run around. Go read the script when you get back to the hotel, and prepare for the second round of auditions the day after tomorrow, Zhou Xiaonan said. Got it, Sister Nan. When the 3 of them returned to the hotel, Wang He was the first to be unable to sit still. Qingyang, let's go for a walk. But Sister Nen doesn't allow us to wander around randomly. Have you already prepared your script? Why can't we walk around? We're not kids. Wang He had come from a wealthy family since he was young, so he could not sit still in the country. As long as he was not working, he would go out to drink and have fun. There were no reporters taking pictures of them overseas, so he was even more carefree. But we're not familiar with Los Angeles. I'm familiar with it. I've been studying here for 4 years. Then where are we going? Li Qingyang asked. Call Zhang Mao. I'll bring you to a high-end restaurant. It's the favorite restaurant of Hollywood celebrities. Oh, you're saying that we might have a chance to meet a Hollywood star? It's possible. When I was studying, I came here a few times and met one. Then what are we waiting for? Call Zhang Mao. The two of them knocked on Zhang Mao's room door. Li Qingyang said, Zhang Mao, let's go out to eat. Ah, didn't we just eat not long ago? Just now the hotel provided food. I didn't eat much at all. Is that for humans? I'll bring you out for a good meal, Wang He said. Zhang Mao was soon convinced. The three of them left the hotel together, hailed a cab, and headed straight to Marina Restaurant. Wang He, can we really meet a Hollywood star at Marina Restaurant? That Marina Restaurant was originally opened by a Hollywood star, Nafa Twain. Fuck Nafa Twain. Nafa Twain. I really like his movies. Then if we go to that restaurant, can we meet Nafa Twain? How would I know? I've never seen him in person. When the three of them arrived at the entrance of the restaurant, they realized that there was already a long line. Fuck, why are there so many people? Watch me. Wang He walked up and stuffed $100 into the waiter's hand. Hey, can you let me and my friend in first? Sorry, no. Please line up, the waiter said coldly. Wang He's expression froze and his expression turned ugly. He had wanted to show off in front of Li Qingyang and Zhang Mao, but he ended up getting slapped in the face by the waiter. However, he quickly calmed down. After all, this was not China. The three of them could only line up obediently. Why don't we go to another restaurant? Wang Mao was the least famous, so he took the initiative to ease Wang He's awkwardness. No, let's go here. I told you to bring someone for a good meal. That's the restaurant's rules. I've gotten used to staying in China and forgot about the rules here. Wang He explained. Since we're overseas, let's follow their rules. Don't embarrass our countrymen, Li Qingyang said. However, at this moment, an Asian man who looked like them walked past the line and went straight to the front of the service counter. Then, that person spoke a few words to the waiter at the service counter. The waiter was very respectful to the Asian man. After a few words, the Asian man walked straight into the restaurant. Seeing this scene, Wang He was instantly enraged. If everyone did things according to the rules, he would not have a single word of complaint. But why did others get to go in first while he had to line up here? Was it because he was not rich enough? Or was it because his status was not high enough? Chapter 968. He's the boss, the waiter said, rolling his eyes. Wang He blushed, but the next moment, he realized something was wrong. Wait, isn't the boss Mr. Nafa Twain? Mr. Twain is the second shareholder, and that Mr. Chun is the biggest shareholder. Wang He returned to his seat silently. He started regretting bringing Li Qingyang and Zhang Mao here. He felt like he'd lost all his dignity today. He'd come to someone else's restaurant and questioned why the boss could enter. Wang He's heart skipped a beat. Is the boss from China? He asked. Yes. Is there a problem? No. Finally, it was the three's turn. They entered the restaurant. Wang He knew that many Hollywood celebrities couldn't buy Marina's restaurant even if they wanted to. Since that person could buy shares of Marina's restaurant, he either knew Nafa Twain or was very powerful. Perhaps he could get to know him and expand his Hollywood connections. Of course, even if he couldn't help him, there was no harm in getting to know another friend. After the three sat down and were about to order, Wang He saw Chen Zhao walk into a private room. Wang He made a mental note of that private room. The food here is really good. These are lobsters imported from Australia. Every year, there's a quota for Australian lobsters. North America's quota is less than 20,000. We're lucky today. This should be the restaurant's new batch of lobsters. If we weren't lucky, we'd have to make a reservation to eat Australian lobsters. It's really good, but it's not cheap, right? You guys eat first, Wang He said, standing up. I'm going to the bathroom. The private room Chen Zhao walked into was the largest in the restaurant. He'd called all the members of the association over and treated them to a meal here. Klaus, why is your waist bulging? President. Klaus pulled up the corner of his shirt, revealing a submachine gun. Fuck, you brought a submachine gun to eat. Did you want to bring a grenade? Chen Zhao cursed. President, I brought some. Klaus took out the 3 salted eggs he'd brought with him. Fuck you. Do you want to blow up my restaurant? Do you have more? Take them all out. Klaus and his 5 team members all took out the firearms they brought with them. They were all embarrassed. In fact, when they received the notice to gather here, they thought that Chen Zhao was going to do something, so they were all fully armed. Only now did they realize that Chen Zhao was going to treat them to a meal. Plus, this was Chen Zhao's restaurant. Everyone took out their firearms and placed them on the table. Chen Zhao suspected that all 6 of them had spatial rings. All kinds of firearms, grenades, and sabers were found on the 6 of them. Klaus, if you blow up the president's restaurant, I think you should consider going to Africa to mine, West teased. Klaus enjoyed working in the supernatural organization, even though he and his team members were considered newbies in this field. However, as they gradually got used to the paranormal missions, they began to like it. Also, the treatment they received in the supernatural organization was many times better than what they had received in the anti-terrorist operations department. Chen Zhao gave them benefits every other day. Moreover, Chen Zhao was the most protective. Although he usually seemed harsh, he would always step forward at crucial times. Just then, the door to the private room opened. Wang He walked to the door and saw guns and grenades all over the table. Chen Zhao even had a gun in his hand. Wang He peed his pants on the spot. He stood at the door, not knowing whether to go in or out. Is this an arms trade? Wang He wanted to turn around and escape, but Klaus was quick to react. He pulled Wang He in and locked the door from the inside. President, do you know him? I don't know him. Throw him down from here. Wang He wanted to scream, but his mouth was covered tightly by Klaus. Haha. Everyone burst into laughter. Okay, it's just a joke. Let him go. Chen Zhao waved his hand. Don't talk nonsense outside. Klaus finally let go of Wang He and patted his chest. Remember, don't talk nonsense. Cold sweat poured down Wang He's forehead as he nodded repeatedly. He felt that he might have barged into an arms trade. Wasn't that how arms trade was in movies? Luckily, these people didn't plan to kill him. Wang He walked out of the private room in cold sweat. He felt like he couldn't even stand properly. Then, he urged Zhang Mao and Li Qingyang to leave. The two were having a good time eating when they were dragged away by Wang He. They were naturally reluctant, but they saw that Wang He's expression wasn't right. He returned to the hotel in a state of shock. Wang He, what's wrong with you? You look like you've seen a ghost. I accidentally ran into an arms trade with a gang. Wang He's face was pale. Don't joke around. Do I look like I'm joking? Did they find you? Yes, I was almost killed, Wang He said. Wang He said, but the party who made the deal should also be Chinese. They probably let me off on account of us being from the same hometown. Should we call the police? Call the police? Do you want to die? This isn't our country. It's America, Wang He said, panicking. Will that gang come looking for trouble with you? I don't think so. If they wanted to kill me, they could have killed me on the spot. But this incident made Wang He tone down a lot. For the past 2 days, he stayed in the hotel like a good boy and didn't even dare to step out of the hotel. It wasn't until the day of the second round of auditions that Wang He left. He headed to the set to prepare for the second round of auditions. Yo, isn't this the people from Guangyu culture? You guys are here too. Zhou Xiaonan and the rest raised their heads and saw that the person who had arrived was actually Huashi Entertainment's vice president, Li Changyu. Behind him were 2 male actors. These 2 male actors were definitely A-list actors in the country. Their popularity, appeal, reputation, and even acting skills were not something the 3 people behind Zhou Xiaonan could compare to. Seeing these people, Zhou Xiaonan's expression turned ugly. Li Changyu and his people were practically crushing Zhou Xiaonan and her actors in every aspect. Move aside, don't block the way. At this moment, a voice came from behind. Everyone turned around and saw an Asian and a Caucasian. When Wang He saw them, his expression changed. Chapter 969. Li Changyu looked at Chen Zhao. The first thing he saw was the tags on Chen Zhao and Ban Ke's necks. Just like his two actors, he was here for the audition. However, the difference was that both of them had white badges and were auditioning for ordinary roles. From a side character to a fourth or fifth character, the people that Li Changyu had brought along were the main characters for the auditions. This is not a place where you should go. You should leave from the side door, Li Changyu said in a condescending manner. Chun, let's go through the side door. Ban Ke did not want any conflict. These people clearly had their own companies. On the other hand, he and Chen Zhao were untrained actors without any background. If there was a conflict, they would definitely not have the upper hand. On the other hand, Wang He took the initiative to pull Zhang Mao and Li Qingyang, making way for Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao walked over, but his shoulder purposely bumped into Li Changyu's shoulder. Li Changyu was knocked to the ground. What are you doing, barbarian? Li Changyu was furious. This time, it was Chen Zhao's turn to look down on Li Changyu. He said coldly, "If you want to show your temper, you better go back to China. Don't embarrass yourself outside. Barbarian, you're the one who's embarrassing. I'll get Mr. Stephen's staff to kick you out." Chen Zhao pursed his lips. He knew most of the people in Stephen's studio. If he could really kick him out, Chen Zhao would admire him. Ban Ke was a bit worried. Seeing Chen Zhao's tough response, he was worried that both Chen Zhao and himself would be kicked out. It wasn't easy for him to get into the second round of auditions. Although it was just a small role, he didn't want to lose this opportunity. When the two of them entered the audition venue, the atmosphere inside suddenly became serious. There were already many actors in the second round who were performing for the assistant directors. "Chun, I'll go up first," Ban Ke said. "You have to work hard." "Okay, you too." Just then, Zhou Xiaonan brought Wang He, Zhang Mao, and Li Qingyang over. They also sat beside Chen Zhao and Ban Ke. Then Li Changyu and two other male actors sat not far away. When Li Changyu looked at Chen Zhao, his eyes were somewhat unfriendly. Li Changyu glanced at the assistant directors in charge of judging not far away, then stood up and walked over. "Hello, Mr. Reeps." "Hello, Mr. Li. What can I do for you?" Lippies had been to China a few times, so he had some friendship with Li Changyu. Moreover, some insider information about this audition had also been passed to Li Changyu through him. It was precisely because of Lippy's cooperation that Li Changyu felt that this audition was in the bag. Although Lippies wasn't the final decision maker, he still had some say in the matter. "Mr. Lippies, that person is an evil person. I suggest you kick him out." Li Changyu pointed in Chen Zhao's direction. Ban Ke noticed Li Changyu's actions and immediately became nervous. "Chen, they seem to know each other. Will we be kicked out?" "No," Chen Zhao said calmly. "Prepare yourself. Don't think too much." Wang He also noticed Li Changyu and felt sorry for him in his heart. Hopefully, Li Changyu wouldn't anger Chen Zhao and die on the streets of America. This guy was definitely a gangster. He might even be an arms dealer. Lippies also saw Chen Zhao. He knew who Chen Zhao was and what he was doing here. Kick Chen Zhao out? What a joke. He would be lucky if Chen Zhao didn't kick him out. "Mr. Li, I don't have the right to kick anyone here." "Sorry," Lippies said. "It's going to be your artist's turn soon. Get ready." Li Changyu didn't expect Lippies to be so disrespectful. Filled with resentment, he returned to his chair. Chen Zhao looked at Li Changyu and gave him the middle finger. This infuriated Li Changyu. Finally, it was Ban Ke's turn. Chen Zhao patted Ban Ke's shoulder. "Relax. As long as you perform at your usual level, you'll definitely be able to do it." If Ban Ke could perform at his usual level, he would be more than enough to play a small role. As long as he performed at his usual level, Chen Zhao would speak up for him even if there were other actors of the same level. But if Ban Ke couldn't perform at his usual level, Chen Zhao wouldn't speak up for him either. After all, if he wasn't good enough, Chen Zhao couldn't keep telling Stephen, "This is my friend, that's my friend." By then, the entire movie would be filled with substandard actors. This wasn't what Chen Zhao wanted. Plus, he'd invested in the movie himself. Ban Ke was very nervous when he went on stage. Seeing the 4 assistant directors taking notes, he felt that they might be recording his mistakes. He became even more nervous and couldn't help but look at Chen Zhao. He and Chen Zhao had met outside the set. Actually, he'd taken the initiative to meet Chen Zhao in order to gain some confidence from Chen Zhao. He felt that being with an outsider could make him more confident. Chen Zhao furrowed his brows and gestured at Ban Ke to cheer him on. Ban Ke took a deep breath and began his performance. But then he gradually got into the groove. His eyes and expressions were all on point. The 4 assistant directors below the stage nodded slightly. Ban Ke only heaved a sigh of relief when he got off the stage. Ban Ke advanced to the next round of interviews. The next round will be in 5 days. Be prepared. One of the assistant directors said. Ban Ke's performance wasn't good at the beginning, but he made up for it very well. They'd seen this happen many times. Some newcomers with good acting skills were nervous during the audition. This was understandable. It wasn't a competition anyway. It was fine as long as the actor had a certain level of acting skills. Li Changyu kept staring at Chen Zhao, his eyes filled with resentment. In his opinion, Lapis didn't kick Chen Zhao out directly, but he'd definitely make things difficult for Chen Zhao after he went on stage. Finally, it was Chen Zhao's turn to perform. Chen Zhao walked to the front of the stage. I'm auditioning for a sleeping kidnapper. Chen Zhao started to close his eyes, imagining himself dozing off. Good. Very good performance. Yeah, very good. Your acting is very good. You've advanced to the next round of auditions. The 4 assistant directors all had the same tone, praising Chen Zhao endlessly. Li Changyu's eyes almost popped out. He asked the actor beside him. Wu Hao, did that guy act well just now? I think so, Wu Hao said. Look at the 4 assistant directors. They're almost praising him to the heavens. Acting was a very subjective thing to begin with. Some people might think the same scene was good, while others might not. It was impossible to tell. Chapter 970. Chen, congratulations. Ban Ke stood up and hugged Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao chuckled. He'd gotten in through the back door. He couldn't be happy at all. However, Chen Zhao still gave Li Changyu, who was furious not far away, the middle finger. Li Changyu's face was filled with anger. He gritted his teeth and glared at Chen Zhao. After Chen Zhao and Ban Ke left the set, Ban Ke said goodbye to Chen Zhao. Li Changyu looked at Chen Zhao from afar and took out a phone. Mr. Seeley, I want to ask you for a favor. Is that okay? Who are you? I'm Li Changyu. We met at the banquet yesterday and exchanged phone numbers. Have you forgotten? Oh, you're that Chinese guy? Seeley remembered. That's me, Li Changyu answered. Tell me, what do you want me to do? I want you to help me find a few people and beat up one person. Haha, you know what I do for a living, don't you? Seeley said. I'm with Mr. Mo, Li Changyu said. I've heard about your job. Then you know that my fees are very high, right? No matter how much it is, Li Changyu said. Tell me, who do you want to beat up? He's also a Chinese. His name is Chen Zhao, Li Changyu said. Chen Zhao. A person's face suddenly flashed through Seeley's mind. He remembered clearly that he'd met a Chinese guy almost a year ago. But later on, a big boss appeared to protect that Chinese man and even threatened him. But after that, Seeley Dirk investigated the Chinese man. He realized that the guy was only a university professor and an illegal doctor. Seeley Dirk guessed that this person must have some sort of relationship with the big boss. But the big shot probably wouldn't protect him all the time. Of course, after that incident, they didn't have anything more to do with each other. So Seeley didn't plan on taking revenge. He just didn't expect that someone would come to him again to deal with the Chinese guy. Seeley thought for a moment and said, What's your price? $10,000, Li Changyu said. He knew 1 or 2 people in the underworld in the United States, so he had heard of some prices. Mr. Li, are you joking with me? Do I look like someone who needs that kind of money? Seeley Dirk said angrily. Perhaps it would only cost him $10,000 to beat someone up. But since the other party called him, it was not a problem that could be solved with $10,000. The other party offered $10,000 to humiliate him. What an insatiable American. Li Changyu was dissatisfied, but he didn't show it. So, Mr. Seeley, what price do you think is suitable? At least 100,000 US dollars. Li Changyu felt a little heartache. $100,000 was not a small amount. I hope you can catch him and bring him to me. I want to humiliate him face to face. That's a markup. 200,000. 200,000 it is. Li Changyu gritted his teeth and agreed. Chun, how did you feel at the audition? Stephen called Chen Zhao. Boring and annoying, Chen Zhao said bluntly. It's fine. The next one should be more exciting. You'll be the main examiner too. There's a next one. The next one is the last one. It's an audition with makeup. Okay. Remember, it's in 3 days. Got it. After hanging up, Chen Zhao planned to go to the headquarters. Just then, Chen Zhao realized that 2 unfamiliar vans were following them. The road to the headquarters was very remote. Normal people would not come here. It was Li Changyu's first time participating in an operation like this. A group of local gangsters had come out to beat someone up. He was also very nervous. The gangsters in the vans were all shouting or smoking. Li Changyu already regretted participating. Even if he had to find someone to beat that person up, he did not have to do it himself. Fuck, why does this yellow monkey have to come to this godforsaken place? Just step on the gas and drive over. When I catch him, I'll break his limbs. Li Changyu broke out in a cold sweat. He had wanted to vent his anger. But now things seemed to be getting out of control. If these hooligans beat someone to death, what would he do if he was involved in a murder case? America was different from China. In China, he might be able to cover it up with his connections. But here in the United States, his connections were completely useless. Although he knew a few people from the underworld in the United States, if he was in trouble, they might not help him. It was also possible that he wanted to take the opportunity to blackmail him. But looking at these vicious gangsters, he wanted to cancel the operation. But he did not dare to say it, afraid that they would beat him up. Just then the car in front stopped. A very unique and technologically advanced building appeared in front of them. Li Changyu had a bad feeling when he saw the building. Were these gangsters planning to fight here? He got out of the car and saw the 2 cars behind him stop. More than 10 gangsters got out. Then he saw Li Changyu get out. Chun, you didn't expect this, did you? Li Changyu threw his previous fear to the back of his mind and looked at Chen Zhao proudly. Chen Zhao was speechless. Were the people who started companies in the entertainment industry all stupid? Were they doing too well in the country? Did they think that they could use this kind of method everywhere? Didn't they know that there would be endless trouble if they got involved with gangsters? Even Chen Zhao had kept his distance from the gangs in the past year. Or so he'd been in America. That was because gangs were the symbol of trouble. If it was not necessary, Chen Zhao did not want to deal with gangsters. Just because of a small conflict, he actually hired a gang to cause trouble for him. This Li Changyu was either out of his mind, or he was an idiot to begin with. What did you think of? Chen Zhao looked at Li Changyu. Are these your friends? Haha. The gangsters laughed. Yellow monkey, don't you understand the situation? Let me teach you what's going on. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly there was a whistling sound in the air. Everyone raised their heads and looked at the sky. Helicopter. Was there a helicopter here? Chapter 971. President. I realized that one of these gangsters is a first-class wanted criminal. Right now, there was a sniper lying on the roof of the HQ, monitoring the entrance with his sniper rifle. Shoot, Chen Zhao ordered. At this moment, the head of a person in the middle of the dozen or so hooligans exploded without any warning. Then there was a gunshot. Everyone's expression froze. Fear was written all over Li Changyu's face. Was this a movie? It had to be a movie, right? Why did this happen? The headless corpse fell backwards in front of Li Changyu. Run. If you dare to move, you'll be turned into a beehive. Chen Zhao looked at the gangsters with a demonic smile. Just then, the gun barrels on both sides of the helicopter above them shot out 2 tongues of fire. The van they'd come in was instantly riddled with holes. Then the mailbox exploded, turning into scrap metal. All the gangsters covered their heads with their hands and lay on the ground. This was the most standard surrender posture. No one was as arrogant and presumptuous as when they'd gotten out of the car. Clearly, Chen Zhao wasn't someone who could let them do whatever they wanted. The headless corpse was enough to prove that Chen Zhao and his people were a group of butchers who were even more vicious than them. Sniper rifles and helicopter weren't normal weapons. Most of them had only experienced street fights. They'd never faced weapons that could only appear on a battlefield or in movies. As for Li Changyu, he'd already wet his pants. Didn't they just find a few gangsters to beat him up? Did they have to launch such a big attack? Adu's coming clean up. President, I'm a security guard, not a sanitation worker. I want a raise. Adu's grumbled as he dragged the corpse away. He was just joking with Chen Zhao. The pay here was so high. Plus, they always gave benefits and used public funds to travel abroad. Even if he died, he'd die in the supernatural organization. Two people with submachine guns walked out and yelled, "Stand up and put your hands on your heads. If anyone dares to move, shoot them all." No one wanted to cause a misunderstanding. Everyone put their hands on their heads and followed the two into the HQ. Li Changyu wanted to explain, but he was hit in the head with the butt of a gun. Put your hands on your heads and follow. Everyone was brought to the man-made lake. Then he was pointed at by a group of people with assault rifles. They didn't know what their fate would be. They were all waiting for this group of evil people to give them their judgment. At this time, Wes came out with a list and picked a few people. You, and you, the four of you, come out and fight. The four people who were pointed out walked out, trembling with fear. Wes waved his hand. Da-da-da-da. 4 people were killed in an instant. The rest of the people were terrified once again. Too scary, this group of people was really too scary. They were demons who killed without batting an eye. Bang bang. All of you shut up. Quiet down. Klaus fired 2 shots into the air. Anyone who speaks without orders will be executed on the spot. Li Changyu wanted to cry. He didn't expect Chen Zhao to be so terrifying. This was even scarier than the gangs he knew. What kind of organization was this? Aduz moved a chair for Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao sat on it and crossed his legs. President, what should we do with these corpses? Who wants them? Chen Zhao asked. Some spells might use corpses, so Chen Zhao asked. No one wants them. Then burn them. Burn them far away and not too close, Chen Zhao said. Oh, set up a frame here and hang him above the lake. Chen Zhao pointed at Li Changyu. Li Changyu cried. Don't kill me, don't kill me. I know Master Mo. I know Master Mo. Who's Master Mo? The leader of the Chinese gang in L.A., West said, glancing at Chen Zhao. Oh, I don't know him, Chen Zhao said calmly. Then, he looked at the remaining hoodlums. Whose subordinates are you? We're Seely Decker's subordinates. Let me think. Seely Decker, I remember now. I know him. President, is he your friend? No, he threatened me once. Since it's the second time, who's going to bring him here? Chen Zhao asked. President, I'll go, Klaus said without thinking. Okay, you go. Chen Zhao nodded. Seely Decker waited for a long time, but his subordinates didn't come back. These asterisks holes, why aren't they back yet? Seely Dirk started to get impatient when he couldn't get through the phone. He didn't like this situation. He liked to control everything. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Come in, Seely Dirk called. But it was a stranger. Who are you? Seely asked. My boss wants you to come, Klaus said. Seely's eyelid twitched. He realized that things were bad. Don't do anything unnecessary to avoid getting hurt, Klaus said indifferently. After all, I've been fighting my way here. I'm very nervous. I don't want to kill the 18th person. Seely's expression changed. There were more than 10 people outside his house. Could it be that this fellow had killed all his subordinates? Sir, who's your boss? You'll know when you get there, Klaus said. Seely could only follow behind Klaus and get into his car. Klaus held the steering wheel with both hands. Seely's eyes kept darting around. Don't try to resist. You can't beat me. Klaus seemed to see through Seely's thoughts. Hey brother, how much does your boss pay you? I can pay you double. Even if you pay my boss 10 times, it's useless. I don't want to be hunted down by him. Klaus really didn't dare to betray Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao was always smiling. But once he got angry, it would really be like the end of the world. Unless he took the money and hid in some chaotic country in Africa, Chen Zhao might not chase him. But if he found him, it might be more terrifying than hell. 20 times. Seely felt that he could buy everyone in the world. 30 times? 50 times? We're here. Let's get out. Klaus wasn't interested in talking to Seely at all. He didn't understand what he was going to face, and who he was going to face. Chapter 972. Just then, an old man walked past Seely with some sympathy in his eyes. His eyes were filled with sympathy. Seeing this, Seely immediately yelled, "What are you looking at? Do you want to die?" Aduz ignored Seely's yelling. This wasn't a place where he could be arrogant. This was the supernatural organization. There was only one boss here. He could only accept one person yelling here. "Klaus, help me tell our president," Aduz said. "He was being mean to me just now. He wanted to kill me." Seely glared at Aduz. "You're asking for it." Klaus stared at Seely. Did he not know what situation he was in? Did he think that he still had the capital to bargain with? Seely Dirk saw Chun Zhao and his men from afar. "Hi, Mr. Chun." Seely acted as if nothing had happened. "Hi, Mr. Seely, you're here." Chun Zhao also acted like nothing had happened. "Why did you call me here?" Seely asked, smiling. "I've been watching some gangster movies recently. I realized that as a gang leader, I lack a symbol." Mr. Chun, are you planning on doing this?" Seely chuckled. "Yes." Chun Zhao nodded seriously. "Then, what did Mr. Chun say is missing?" "Come, bring it here," Chun Zhao said. Gaia pushed a machine before them. "Let me introduce it to you. This is a BG-85 mincing machine. It costs $735 and can mince 100 kilograms of meat." Chun Zhao patted the mincing machine. The gangsters in the movies all have a machine like this. They can stuff their enemies into the mincing machine. Seely and his subordinates all had unnatural expressions. "Ha! Mr. Chun, you really like to joke." Chun Zhao chuckled, his tone extremely gentle. "Do I look like I'm joking with you?" "Mr. Chun, I admit that I offended you earlier. I apologize." Seely had to admit his mistake. He lowered his head and admitted his mistake. Regardless of whether Chun Zhao really wanted to stuff him into the meat grinder or not, he didn't want to lose his life. "No need to apologize." Chun Zhao turned on the mincing machine. The meat grinder roared, and everyone's scalp went numb. Chun Zhao pulled Seely over. This time, Seely realized that Chun Zhao was serious. He was so scared that his legs turned to jelly. "Mr. Chun, let me explain." Chun Zhao dragged his right hand and pressed it against the entrance of the mincing machine. Chun. Blood mist and minced meat sprayed out of the meat grinder's exit. All of it splashed onto the hoodlums and scoundrels in front of him. Chun Zhao let go of Seely. "Continue. I'm going to the bathroom." Damn. This cruel punishment was even more disgusting than he had imagined. It wasn't that Chun Zhao hadn't killed before. But even smashing someone's head wasn't as disgusting as using a meat grinder. Everyone else's expressions were ugly too. Even Klaus and the others had similar expressions. Seely clutched his right arm and fell to the ground, screaming in pain. His subordinates were so scared that their faces were drained of blood. 5 minutes later, Chun Zhao walked out again. "Bury him along with the meat grinder." Chun Zhao waved his hand. He wasn't interested in stuffing Seely into the meat grinder. He didn't plan on doing it for the rest of his life. This thing was really too disgusting. "What do we do with these people?" West asked, pointing at the hoodlums. "All of them stay. Everyone wear a bomb collar. I'll pick someone to show them what a bomb collar is." The bomb collar was completely inspired by Jalik from the movies. It was a collar that would explode. With a press of the remote, the collar would explode and send the person's head into the sky. "What about him?" West asked, pointing at Li Changyu. Chun Zhao thought about it. Li Changyu didn't plan on killing him. He just wanted to teach him a lesson. Besides, Li Changyu was different from Seely Dirk and his men. Li Changyu was just an ordinary businessman, and Chun Zhao was from the same hometown. "Forget it. Let him go," Chun Zhao said, waving his hand. It was enough to teach him a lesson. The lesson wasn't just physical damage. It was also psychological damage. He went to the hotel garage and was about to go shopping. Suddenly, a car stopped in front of him. Then he saw Chun Zhao get out of the car and throw Li Changyu to the ground. He was shocked. He wanted to pretend that he didn't see anything. But Chen Zhao ignored him. Instead, he squatted before Li Changyu. Mr. Li, you know what to say and what not to say, right? Li Changyu curled up into a ball and looked at Chen Zhao in fear. He nodded hurriedly. He'd experienced too many things in the past day. Now he really regretted provoking Chen Zhao. Who would have thought that a Chinese would be an out-and-out butcher here? He even had a group of vicious thugs under his command. Chen Zhao glanced at Wang He, then got into the car and left. Seeing Chen Zhao leave, Wang He dared to go forward. Mr. Li, are you okay? Li Changyu had been curled up into a ball and trembling. Mr. Li. Mr. Li. Li Changyu's condition was clearly not right. He was wet and trembling. Wang He hurriedly called the ambulance and sent Li Changyu to the hospital. After the diagnosis, it was confirmed that Li Changyu had been abused before. There were obvious wounds on his body and water in his lungs. Then, the police came and Wang He made a statement. Of course, Wang He didn't dare to tell them about Chen Zhao. He only said that he saw Li Changyu in the garage and was sent to the hospital. Judging from Chen Zhao's lawless behavior, he didn't know if calling the police would work. But he was sure that if he told the police the truth, he would be dead for sure. Wang He, where are you now? Just then Zhou Xiaonan called. Sister Nan, I'm at the hospital. You're sick? No. I saw Mr. Li from Hua Entertainment in the garage. I think he's sick, so I sent him to the hospital. Don't worry about him. Come back immediately. What's the rush? Chen Ku's here. She said she'll bring the three of you to visit someone. This person will be crucial to whether or not you'll be chosen. Chapter 973. Chen Ku glanced at Zhou Xiaonan, and then at Wang He, Zhang Mao, and Li Qingyang. The person I'm taking you to see is my cousin. Biological? Zhou Xiaonan subconsciously thought that Chen Ku had recognized him. Maybe they had some secret relationship. Yes, but we're not that close, Chen Ku said. Can your cousin help them with the audition? Mr. Stephen didn't plan to participate in James's Animal Mart, but the director of God of War, which was released at the same time, offended my cousin, so my cousin asked Mr. Stephen to help James suppress the box office of God of War. What Chen Ku said was what James had told her. Hearing Chen Ku's words, everyone couldn't help but gasp. They didn't expect Chen Ku to have such an important connection. No wonder she could get such an important role. He's a bit overbearing, Chen Ku said. Don't get into conflict with him, whether you get a satisfactory answer or not. Of course, Saku. I'll be grateful to you whether it works or not. You're welcome. Actually, Zhou Xiaonan had to pay a price for Chen Ku's help. In exchange, Zhou Xiaonan had to promote Chen Ku in China. After all, the domestic entertainment industry was Chen Ku's route. Only if she had enough popularity and appeal in China could she have enough confidence in Hollywood. After all, Hollywood blockbusters couldn't ignore the Chinese market. If Chen Ku could have enough influence in China, she would have a higher chance of getting a role in Hollywood. Chen Ku brought everyone to Mirror Lake. The scenery here is so beautiful. That yacht over there is so big and beautiful. Mr. Stephen gave it to my cousin, Chen Ku said. He's the godfather of my cousin's daughter. Everyone became more and more nervous. They didn't know what kind of big shot it was. That villa is so beautiful too. It's so big. I really want to build a villa here too. Don't think about it, Chen Ku said. My cousin owns all the land within 20 square kilometers. If you want to be his neighbor, I'm afraid you'll have to get his permission first. Everyone's heart tightened again. They were even more in awe of the cousin they'd never met. The car stopped in front of the villa, and Chen Ku got out with the others. Chen Zhao walked out of the room half naked. When everyone saw Chen Zhao, they were all surprised. On the other hand, Wang He's expression turned into one of horror. How could it be him? Why him? Chen Ku, who are they? Chen Zhao glanced at Zhou Xiaonan and the others. He also recognized them as the people from the morning audition. Why are you here? Zhou Xiaonan also cried out in surprise. Cousin, this is the boss of my company, Sister Zhou Xiaonan, Chen Ku said. He's your cousin? That's not right. He went to the audition himself, and he auditioned for a small role. Zhou Xiaonan was very suspicious of Chen Ku's words now. Cousin, what's going on? I just went for the audition. Is there a problem? Zhou Xiaonan felt that she had been deceived, and her face immediately sank. Aku, I still have things to do, so I'll leave first. Sister Nan, wait. Zhou Xiaonan didn't give Chunku a chance to explain. She turned around and got into the car with her men. He directly left Chunku on the spot and swaggered off. I really didn't think that Chunku would make up an identity for her cousin, just to deal with me. That's too much. Zhou Xiaonan was very angry. Am I that easy to trick? That guy was clearly the one who went for the small role today. If he really knew Steven and had such connections, he wouldn't have gone through so much trouble to audition, Li Qingyang said. Exactly, Zhang Mao added. Zhang Mao echoed. I think Chunku is lying to us on purpose. She makes it sound like she has a lot of connections in Hollywood. Only Wang He didn't say anything. He didn't know if Chunku knew Steven, but he was sure that Steven did have a lot of power in Los Angeles. He didn't want Chen Zhao to hear what he said, so he remained silent while the others were complaining. Zhou Xiaonan was angry, but Chunku's wings were already set. If she cancelled the contract with Chunku, she would be the one at a disadvantage. Therefore, she could only suffer in silence and pretend that nothing had happened. You guys better work harder. Don't be as ungrateful as some people. Cousin, what's going on? Chen Zhao shrugged and said helplessly. Steven, that old bastard. He wanted me to pretend to be an ordinary actor and observe the auditions. Chunku was completely speechless. She didn't expect such a thing. Don't tell anyone, Chen Zhao warned. If you do, you can forget about your role. After all, it was a movie he'd invested in. Chen Zhao didn't want to mess it up. They're all from your company. Yes. They're all local actors. Yes. Look at them. Which one is suitable for the role? Chunku glanced at Chen Zhao. If I tell you, you won't remove me from the role, right? Do I look that unreasonable? Yes. All three of them have their own strengths. Li Qingyang is 28 years old. He has both acting skills and popularity. Wang He is 27 years old. His acting skills are a little lacking, but he's extremely popular. Zhang Mao is 26 years old. He graduated from an acting school, and his acting skills are the best. He has won a domestic award for Best Supporting Actor, but his domestic popularity is a little lacking. I think Wang He is the most suitable, Chen Zhao said. Why? He's the most handsome and most like me. If I roll my eyes now, will I lose my role? It was time for the third audition. Today, there were not only auditions but also many reporters. They all wanted to know the results as soon as possible. Of course, it was impossible for the reporters to enter the audition studio. How are your preparations? Zhou Xiaonan asked. Sister Nan, I'm ready. Me too. Me too. I've been memorizing lines for the past 3 days. I haven't even left the hotel. It wasn't that Wang He didn't want to go out, but he didn't dare to. He'd studied in LA before, but he'd never felt that America was so dangerous. Today's main examiner is Mr. Steven and Mr. Rasfa, the president of PLM, one of the big six. You guys have to give your best. Don't embarrass me. By the time they entered the audition studio, it was already filled with actors who were auditioning. They were all looking forward to performing in front of Steven. Of course, most of them were nervous. A while later, Steven and Rasfa arrived. The crowd immediately became restless. But the audition didn't start, which made the auditions even more restless. Why isn't it starting? Chapter 974. Bang kept looking at the time. He had been wondering why Chen Zhao wasn't here yet. During the audition, the main examiner hated it when actors were late. This would give the main examiner a very bad impression, because the main examiner thought that such people would also be late on set. This was the case for famous actors, and even more so for small actors. Therefore, if an actor was late for the audition, he or she would most likely be eliminated. However, an hour had passed, and the audition still hadn't started. Sister Nan, what's going on? Why are the Americans so slow? Zhou Xiaonan was also somewhat impatient, but she had to wait no matter what. Just then, one of the actors finally couldn't sit still anymore. He stood up and asked loudly, Mr. Steven, when can we start the audition? Steven lifted his eyelids, glanced at the actor, and picked up the microphone. The most important thing for an actor is patience. Today is just an audition. After the movie starts, You might not have any scenes for the whole day, but I still want you to wait on the set. Can you persevere? The actor's face was bright red. Sorry, Mr. Steven. After Steven put down the microphone, Rasfa glanced at him and said in a low voice, You really know how to wrangle. But as an authority, everything you say is correct. That asterisk Sholchin, why isn't he here yet? Just then there was a commotion outside. An actor charged in, ignoring the security guard's advice. Mr. Stevens, sorry I'm late, the actor said, sweating profusely. Sorry, sir, you might need to leave. I need actors who are on time. Steven didn't even give the actor a chance to explain. He waved at the security guard behind him. All the actors in the audition looked cold and reserved. As a world-class director, he indeed had the dignity of one. Even though the audition hadn't officially started, he still wouldn't allow anyone to be late. This should be Mr. Stevens' test, Zhou Xiaonan whispered to the 3 actors beside her. Maybe the audition has already started. Look, Mr. Steven keeps taking notes. He's probably recording the performance of every actor in the audition. The 3 all felt that it made sense. Maybe this was a hidden test. The 3 of them sat upright and still, no longer whispering to each other. After about 10 minutes, another person came in from outside. When the audition actors saw this person, they were all a little surprised. Wasn't he not allowed to come in? Why did another person come in? Zhou Xiaonan, Wang He, Li Qingyang, and Zhang Mao were a little surprised. How could it be this man? How did he get in here? Did he force his way in? Seeing Chen Zhao, Ban Ku had a complicated expression. He was worried that Chen Zhao would be expelled on the spot. However, Chen Zhao didn't walk toward him. Instead, he walked toward the judges. What is he going to do? Zhou Xiaonan muttered in confusion. Is he trying to plead with Mr. Steven? Just then Chen Zhao said, Sorry I'm late. Zhou Xiaonan rolled her eyes. Someone in front of her had already been chased out. Did this person think that he could get away with it with just a haha? Everyone at the scene had the same thought. They were all waiting for Chen Zhao to be kicked out. Fuck you bastard. Don't you know the time? Rasfa cursed. Everyone was waiting to watch a good show. Who was Rasfa? He may not be as famous as Steven, but he wasn't a small figure either. He was the president of PLM, one of the big 6. He stood at the top of the Hollywood pyramid. Offending Rasfa was equivalent to offending the entire Hollywood. Even A-list celebrities didn't dare to offend Rasfa. But now this man was so late. He definitely couldn't stay in Hollywood anymore. We said 9 in the morning, Steven said with a dark expression. It's almost 10 now. Can't you be a little more punctual? Chen Zhao took out a bottle of wine. Do you want some wine during the audition? Fuck. Steven and Rasfa gave Chen Zhao the middle finger at the same time. Chen Zhao sat down beside them, on the 3rd empty seat. Everyone at the scene was in an uproar. Wait, why did he sit in that seat? Wasn't he supposed to be kicked out? Ban Ke stared at Chen Zhao in disbelief. Wouldn't he be kicked out if he sat there? No matter where he sat, he should be kicked out. Zhou Xiaonan, Wang He, Li Qingyang, and Zhang Mao were all in disbelief. Just then, Steven picked up the microphone and said, Sir, the audition officially begins. But someone was unconvinced. Mr. Steven, why can he be late? Steven glanced at the man. Because I set the rules. I want my actors to be punctual, but he's not an actor. He's your judge, and you'd better respect him. After all, he's a narrow-minded person. Fuck Steven, I'm not that petty. The crowd was in an uproar. A stranger had become their judge and examiner? Ban Ke was in disbelief. Why did the fellow who had been with him a few days ago suddenly become the chief examiner of this audition? Anyone would find it hard to accept that a candidate had become the main examiner. The faces of Zhou Xiaonan and her 3 artists were filled with disbelief. Did this person really know Steven? Just then Steven said, Some of you might know him. He also participated in the previous 2 auditions, but I asked him to mix in with you and secretly test you. He's Rasfa's and my most trusted friend, so his evaluation of each of you is very important. If you pass my test but don't pass his, you'll be passed too. Everyone was in an uproar. No one had expected such an outcome. Zhou Xiaonan, Wang He, Zhang Mao, and Li Qingyang's expressions froze. Especially Zhou Xiaonan, she was extremely regretful. Chen Ke had brought them to see Chen Zhao before, but she'd thought that Chun-Ku was lying to her. So she'd just left. Chun-Ku hadn't lied. Not only did this person know Steven, but he also knew Rasfa. In fact, he really had the final say in this audition. If she'd been more polite back then, perhaps today's audition would be easier and smoother. But now, Zhou Xiaonan started to worry for her artists. Chapter 975. The three of us are sitting here, so we don't want to hear any objections, Steven said in a calm tone. You can call me a tyrant, or you can call me a dictator. Since you're standing here, it means that you've accepted this rule. Chen Zhao picked up the microphone and said with a smile, Don't listen to this old bastard. I'm actually not that petty. Perhaps some people present would believe Chen Zhao, but Wang He definitely did not. That day, Li Changyu had offended Chen Zhao at the audition and was still lying in the hospital. Okay, the audition begins now, Chen Zhao said. He picked up the list and glanced at it. Mr. Ban Ku, please come up. Hearing Chen Zhao call his name, Ban Ku immediately panicked. He'd made ample preparations, but after Chen Zhao sat down, he was completely flustered. He was in a mess. Chen Zhao saw that Ban Ku was panicking. Do I need to arrange you later? Or give you more time to prepare? Chen Zhao asked. Everyone could feel that Chen Zhao was taking care of Ban Ku. Zhou Xiaonan and the others all had complicated expressions. If they could build a good relationship with Chen Zhao, they might be able to receive his care. Unfortunately, they'd missed such a good opportunity just like that. Zhou Xiaonan was very annoyed, but it was too late now. She could only hope that Chen Zhao wouldn't make things difficult for her during the audition. Right now, Zhou Xiaonan really wanted to call Chun-Ku and ask her to be more understanding. However, Zhou Xiaonan had also offended Chun-Ku that day. She hadn't given Chun-Ku any face at all. Although it was all a misunderstanding, Chun-Ku had brought them to see Chen Zhao out of goodwill. However, Zhou Xiaonan had given her a cold shoulder. In the next few days, Chun-Ku hadn't called at all. Ban Ku sorted out his emotions and shook his head. No need, teacher. I'm already prepared. No need to call me teacher, Chen Zhao said. You can call me whatever you want, Chen Zhao said. We know each other. There's no need to avoid it. Ban Ku was touched. Steven said with a smile. Vincent was recommended by Chen. Although he's not a professional, he has a good eye. You can see it from Vincent's performance. So we trust Chen's judgment. The audition staff were in an uproar. Of course they knew Vincent. A lucky taxi driver became famous overnight because he starred in Steven's movie. Many of the people present had actually set Vincent as their development goal. Now that they heard that Chen Zhao had recommended and recruited Vincent, many people looked at Chen Zhao differently. Alright, tell me your identity and the role you're auditioning for. I'm a student at the University of Southern California's film school. I'm a senior this year, and I've already taken on a few small roles. This time, I'm competing for the role of the villain, the hacker. Okay, start your performance. After that, Ban Ku began his performance. It couldn't be said to be outstanding, but it was quite stable. It was considered to be average, and because he was trained in acting, his lines were very good. In addition, his appearance was very compatible with the character. Chen Zhao, Steven, and Rasfa started discussing in low voices. Steven, if he can't do it, you don't have to take care of my feelings. You're still in charge of this audition. Rasfa and I are just here for fun. He's very good, and his performance is above the passing mark. He can sign the role, Steven said. Also, since he's been approved by Chen, there's no need to hesitate. The role is his. Kid, do you have a manager? No. You need to find a management company and have them arrange a manager for you. It can save you a lot of trouble, especially after you act in my movie. This is my advice to you. My studio's legal department will discuss the contract with you. You can go now. The crowd was in an uproar again. Ban Ku's role wasn't number 1 or number 2, but it was very eye-catching. There were many special scenes. After all, a hacker in a movie would usually leave a deep impression. Moreover, this role was a hacker in Steven's movie. This was a very valuable character, which caused many people to reveal looks of envy and jealousy, especially the actors who were playing the same role as Ban Ku. Following that, A few character actors began to perform on stage one after another. However, apart from Ban Ku, only one actor had successfully gotten a role. Now all actors playing number 1 Asian male, please step forward, Steven said. More than 10 people stood up. They were all actors from China, Japan and Korea. Zhou Xiaonan was even more nervous than Wang He, Zhang Mao, and Li Qingyang. The main show was coming. She didn't have much hope for this role at first. But at this moment, she began to worry about her personal gains and losses. Regret and hope at the same time. Chun, what do you think at first glance? That they're not suitable. Chun Zhao wasn't a professional. He'd just eliminated a few based on his first instinct. Among them were Zhou Xiaonan's artists, Li Qingyang and Zhang Mao. Zhou Xiaonan was in despair. Chun Zhao's revenge had indeed come. Why? Steven asked. That actor looks a bit childish, Chun Zhao said, pointing at Zhang Mao. Then he pointed at the others. The others are too mature. Some actors were born with a mature face. They looked like this when they were 20, and they still looked like this when they were 40. It wasn't that being mature wasn't good, but different roles had different roles. Okay, Steven said. The rest of you, introduce yourselves, and then start acting out the script in your hands. Wang He took a deep breath. He didn't feel so nervous anymore. He didn't think he could be chosen, because the person sitting there was Chun Zhao. Therefore, he was extremely relaxed and waited for his name to be called. Then he'd draw a perfect ending to this audition. Soon after, Wang He went on stage and began his performance. From start to finish, the 3 examiners didn't say the result. When the last actor finished his performance, the 3 of them gathered together again and began to discuss. Chun, who do you think is suitable? I think one of the Japanese actors is very nervous. There's also another Korean actor. Did he forget his lines? As for the Chinese actor, Wang He, I don't know if he's good or not, but I feel comfortable. Chapter 976. Everyone had their own preferences. When 2 people of similar skill stood before him, and he had to choose, he would definitely choose the one he was more familiar with, or the one he had a better relationship with. Perhaps they had closer interests, or came from the same hometown. All of these would affect the outcome. Even Steven was no exception. It was inevitable that he would have such tendencies. Steven and Rasva both looked at Chun Zhao. Then this Chinese actor? Steven asked. Do you think he's suitable? From his performance just now, I think he's pretty good, Steven said. Steven said. Also, this is a commercial film, not an artistic film, so the acting skills just need to be passable. Also, some independent film actors always have too many ideas that they want to express in the film. This kind of actor is difficult to communicate with, so I prefer an actor that I can control. Since you think he's suitable, then let's do it, Chun Zhao said. Okay, let's do it. Try to keep the pay low, Chun Zhao said. As one of the investors, the lower the pay, the lower his investment. All the actors looked at the 3 nervously. In the end, Steven picked up the microphone and stood up. Everyone, we've come to a conclusion. Chinese actor Wang He, please stay. Also, your manager should stay too. Thank you for your cooperation. Thank you. With that, Steven, Chun Zhao, and Rasva turned and left. Some actors who didn't get the role were obviously unhappy, or wanted to argue with Steven. This was a very common thing on any set or audition studio. Some actors were too arrogant, and felt that everyone else was trash apart from themselves. But the security guards quickly cleared the place. Many people kept staring at Wang He. Their eyes filled with even crazier jealousy than Ban Ku's. Even Li Qingyang and Zhang Mao, who were his partners, were no exception. In fact, even Zhou Xiaonan felt that Wang He might be the least likely to get a role out of her 3 actors. Because Wang He's acting skills were obvious, he'd always been criticized by his anti-fans in China for being exaggerated or expressionless. On the other hand, Li Qingyang and Zhang Mao both had their own outstanding acting skills. Wang He's only advantage was his popularity. But this was Hollywood. Wang He's popularity might not be useless, but it would at least be less effective. But now, Wang He had actually obtained the character and defeated so many competitors. Mr. Wang, please follow me. Also, is your manager here? A staff member who was responsible for leading the way came up to Wang He. Wang He turned to look at Zhou Xiaonan. Zhou Xiaonan quickly said, I am his agent. In that case, please follow me. Zhou Xiaonan left Li Qingyang and Zhang Mao behind, and led Wang He to follow behind the staff. After knocking on Stephen's office door, Wang He and Zhou Xiaonan entered the room. The first thing she saw was Chen Zhao with his legs crossed, and Guyu lying on the sofa. On the other hand, Stephen was sitting at his desk. Rasfa was holding a glass of red wine, and sipping it carefully. Mr. Stephen, Mr. Rasfa, and Mr. Chen, nice to meet you. Zhou Xiaonan led Wang He to greet them. Hello. We have now roughly confirmed that Mr. Wang will be the male lead of our movie. So we would like to talk about the issue of remuneration. This movie is not a super production. The budget is less than $80 million. So we cannot give Mr. Wang a high remuneration. We need to consider many issues such as risks. I understand, Zhou Xiaonan immediately said. Our company is willing to invest in Mr. Stephen's new movie. Everyone rolled their eyes. Who wants your investment? The last thing Stephen lacked was investment. I'm sorry, but this movie is between the three of us. We do not accept other investments. Zhou Xiaonan was secretly shocked. Hollywood was the most averse to external investments. Even the financial giants on Wall Street coveted Hollywood's profits, but they could not get close to it. However, Chen Ke's cousin could actually invest his own money in a Hollywood movie. Zhou Xiaonan was annoyed at her rashness a few days ago. Although this guy was not famous, he was probably a big shot in Hollywood. If she had known earlier, she would have tried to build a good relationship with him. Wang He can participate for free, but I hope that you can give him some face when you announce it. We can announce that Mr. Wang's remuneration is $5 million. Zhou Xiaonan smiled. She was very satisfied with this. It seemed like Wang He was working for free. But when the movie was released and the box office was a hit, Wang He's remuneration would be many times higher. Also, this role has some high-intensity action scenes. So I hope Mr. Wang can stay in America for relevant training. Of course, I'll arrange the training for him. No, I mean let him be responsible. Stephen pointed at Chen Zhao. Fuck, Stephen, you're giving me trouble again. You just need to give him some pointers. No, I don't want trouble. Feilai is about to give birth. I have to stay home with her. Fuck, Feilai is not even 5 months old. Can't you find a better excuse? How about I introduce you to a friend of mine? Her fighting skills are definitely top-notch. She was the one who taught me how to fight back then. Oh, she taught you how to fight? Yes, Chen Zhao said. She's a former Marine Corps instructor. She can be a movement coach. Wang He's thoughts were completely different from Zhou Xiaonan's. He thought that Chen Zhao was scary. He even knew a Marine Corps instructor. On the other hand, Zhou Xiaonan thought that Chen Zhao had a wide network. Sure. Since you think it's okay, you can find a movement coach. Anyway, you can't run away when you lose money. I won't lose money. Mr. Wang, when can you sign the contract? Stephen asked. Anytime. Then come to my studio early tomorrow. This is my name card. Also, please leave your contact information so that Mr. Wang can have professional training. If there's nothing else, we'll go back and prepare. Zhou Xiaonan left with Wang He, but after leaving the set, Zhou Xiaonan and Wang He stood at the entrance. Sister Nan, aren't we going back to the hotel? Chapter 977. A while later, Chen Zhao came out. Zhou Xiaonan immediately walked up with Wang He. Wang He was extremely fearful of Chen Zhao. It didn't matter if he was related to Stephen or not. Fighting Chen Zhao head-on in Los Angeles was suicide. Mr. Chen, I'm sorry about last time. Oh. Chen Zhao glanced at the two. I have something to do. Bye. Mr. Chen, if you come back in the future, you can call me. Your schedule. Stop, I don't need anyone to take care of me. Chen Zhao interrupted Zhou Xiaonan. Mr. Chen, wait. Wang He still needs your care in the future. Why do I feel like you're entrusting him to me? Chen Zhao glanced at Wang He. Don't worry, I won't die. Stephen doesn't have any major problems apart from his bad temper. As long as you don't talk back to him on set, no one will bully you. I still have something to do. Bye. Chen Zhao felt that Zhou Xiaonan was very insensible. If she wanted to build a relationship with him, she should at least give him some benefits. It was just empty words and a promise that he didn't know when he could fulfill. Who would want such a promise? It was more practical to just give him a check. Zhou Xiaonan watched Chen Zhao leave with a helpless expression. She felt that Chen Zhao definitely still remembered what happened last time. Sister Nan, we just need to be ourselves, Wang He said innocently. We don't need to rely on connections. Zhou Xiaonan glanced at Wang He. If she didn't need to save him some face now that he had climbed up the ladder, she really wanted to kick him. Whether it was in the country or abroad, networking was crucial. Zhou Xiaonan thought for a moment. She still needed Chen Ke to do this. After all, they were cousins. It would be much easier to talk as a family. Hey Ke. Zhou Xiaonan called Chen Ke with a shy face. Sister Nan, what's up? Ke. It's all thanks to Mr. Chen that Wang He has gotten the male lead role in Mr. Stevens' new movie. Huh? You know who he is? I don't know the details, but Mr. Chen was one of the main judges at the audition today. He also approved Wang He. Zhou Xiaonan could see clearly from the audition that Chen Zhao clearly favored Wang He. That was why Steven and Rasfa chose Wang He. Otherwise, compared to the other actors, Wang He did not stand out at all. It was almost impossible for Steven to have chosen Wang He. Look, how should I thank your cousin? What is your cousin like? Zhou Xiaonan thought that men only liked women and money. If she could befriend Chen Zhao, she could even give him money. He and his girlfriend have a very good relationship, so you don't have to waste your time. Besides, he also knows several A-list Hollywood actresses and a lot of small stars. If he needs a woman, I'm sure he only needs to lift his finger, and a group of Hollywood actresses will throw themselves at him. As for giving money, I don't think Sister Nan is richer than him. Last time, my aunt wanted to transfer her company's shares to my cousin's daughter, but my cousin directly refused. That's worth more than $1 billion. Sister Nan, if you can take out more money than that, you can give it a try. If not, then forget it. Zhou Xiaonan sucked in a breath of cold air. $1 billion? It seemed that this man was richer than she had imagined. However, this also made this man very stubborn. It would be much more difficult to build a relationship with him. What does your cousin actually do? I don't know, Chen Ke answered. Zhou Xiaonan felt that Chen Ke did not want to tell her. Ke, it was my fault last time. Don't take it to heart. Sister Nan, what happened last time? Chen Ke was also very sensitive. Zhou Xiaonan did not continue asking. The most important thing now was to mend their relationship. Although Chen Ke said that she did not mind, who knew if it had left a knot in her heart? Now, Chen Ke was already powerful and had a big backer like her cousin. In the future, even if she could not survive in China, she could still do well in Hollywood. Moreover, if she could build a relationship with Chen Zhao, in the future, her company might be able to enter Hollywood continuously. By then, her company would definitely rise in China. Although her company had a certain foundation in the country, compared to companies like Huashi Entertainment, it was still a lot weaker. If she could find a path in Hollywood, it would be a chance to rise. Dad, what happened to you in LA? Li Changyu's daughter Li Zhang'er looked at Li Changyu, who was curled up on the bed. She had heard that her father had gotten into trouble in America, so she had rushed to LA anxiously. She had heard from the police and the hospital that her father seemed to have been tortured. Zhang, let's go back. I don't want to stay here anymore. Li Changyu had not recovered in the past few days. The impact of what happened that day was too great. He had never seen such a lawless person. He killed people like grass, like cutting grass. Even in the country, most of the gangsters he came into contact with were only involved in the underworld. But in America, that person was simply a local tyrant. No, we can't go back like this without bringing the real culprit to justice. Zhang, this is overseas, not in China, Li Changyu said, his face full of panic. We can't beat them here. Even if we're overseas, we have to abide by the law. Zhang, this can't be solved with the law. That person is extremely powerful here. Let's go back. Grandpa can't help even if he's here? Li Changyu curled up in bed. His father-in-law was also involved in the underworld abroad. However, that person had already killed a gang leader in front of him. He did not want to drag his father-in-law into this. That group of people was obviously crueler and more lawless than the gangs. Whether it was in China or abroad, the gangs were actually very restricted. Fighting and using their connections could more or less suppress the matter. However, once someone died, it was not something that could be settled by using connections. But that person had killed so many people without any scruples. He was probably not someone that his father-in-law could protect. Li Changyu only wanted to go back to China and stay away from this city and this country. He never wanted to come here again in his life. Li Zhong'er did not understand what kind of person his father had met to scare him like this. However, Li Zhong'er felt that he had to seek justice for his father. Chapter 978. Gaia swam around the artificial lake, while Chen Zhao stood by the lake with his arms crossed. After a while, Gaia swam to the shore. While wiping herself, she approached Chen Zhao. Gaia, I'll introduce you to a job. Are you interested? What job? Acting as the movement director for Steven's movie, Chen Zhao said. If you're interested, you can ask Steven for a role too. What's the pay? $200,000 for about 3 months. Gaia had over 20 million now. 200,000 might not be enough. Chen Zhao added. If you accept, I can give your gym a 3 to 5 second shot in Steven's movie. This was like advertising for Gaia's gym. She wouldn't be paid directly, but the shot was worth more than $1 million. Even if a big brand sponsor wanted to place an advertisement in Steven's movie, it would cost at least $10 million for 10 seconds. One could imagine how valuable the 3 to 5 seconds was. Sure. Gaia nodded. The gym was her main business, even though it might only be worth a few $100,000. However, if she could manage her gym brand, then it would definitely have a lot of potential value. Usually gyms were hard to manage. On one hand, it was limited in scale. On the other hand, it was hard for the owner to invest more in promotion. Putting the gym brand in a movie was out of the question. However, if the gym brand became bigger, it could be worth tens of millions of dollars. In the movie market, the value of advertisement placement was very complicated. Chen Zhao felt that since it was a good opportunity, why not benefit his own people? Other than the movement director, help me train the main actor too, Chen Zhao said. He's playing my role after all. I don't want it to be just for show. How do you want me to train? As long as no one dies, do whatever you want. Oh, and don't affect the filming. I don't want him to be in bed when the movie starts. Sure. President, let me be a guest character too. It's Mr. Steven's movie. Just showing my face is good enough. It was easy to play a small role. Anyway, this movie needed a lot of small roles. Although Steven's movie was very popular, even a cameo was very popular. Chen Zhao and Gaia chatted as they walked. Gaia changed her clothes and put on the boxing gloves. Someone come here, I want to practice boxing. Soon, a man with a swollen face and a bloody nose came over. He was wearing a thick boxing suit and a thick plate. Gaia trained his fists on this person. Every time Gaia punched, this person would retreat a few steps. He was the gangster who was captured last time. They had been living here for a few days. It wasn't that they hadn't thought of escaping, but they were all wearing collars around their necks. Escaping would mean death. They were now equivalent to the miscellaneous staff of the association. They were responsible for cleaning the association on a daily basis and doing miscellaneous chores. Of course, these were all ordinary jobs. The scariest part was giving Adam the sandbag. Even if they were wearing protective gear that was several times stronger than normal headgear and arm guards, they would still be able to survive. However, in front of Gaia, it was no different from running naked. Of course, this was the result of Gaia restraining himself. Every time he sparred with Gaia, he would let them rest for at least 3 days. Gaia, his arm is broken, Chen Zhao said. Oh, forget it. Go and rest. Only then did Gaia stop. Henry held his arm, pain written all over his face. He didn't know when this hellish life would end. Henry returned to the dorm. Every time he entered, he would feel a cold wind blow past him. Although the environment of the dormitory was not bad, Henry still felt uncomfortable. Bentley was staying in the same room as him. Bentley had already rested for 2 days. He had also been Gaia's sparring partner, and had a broken rib. Henry was about to push open the door when it suddenly opened automatically. The creaking sound of the door made him feel a little creeped out. He felt that this dorm was somewhat unusual. Henry entered the room and suddenly saw a woman in white standing before Bentley's bed. The woman's face was extremely pale. "Who are you?" Henry asked. The woman raised her head to look at Henry, and a strange smile appeared on her face. "Who exactly are you?" Henry asked again. The woman tilted her head and tilted it more and more. Her face was completely upside down. "A ghost." Henry fell to the ground in fright. Then he scrambled out of the dorm. Just then a Deuce came in from the dorm. He also lived in the dorm, but he lived in a high-end suite on the 2nd floor. "Mr. Adu's ghost, ghost, ghost." Henry pulled Adu's back and cried out in fear. "Oh, where's the room?" In my room. That's a female ghost. She's standing before Bentley's bed." Henry's face was pale. He was really frightened. "Take me there," Adu said. But that's a ghost." "I told you to take me there." "Stop talking nonsense." Henry returned to his room with trepidation. It's inside." Just then the female ghost came out. She still looked horrifying face down. Even Aduz was shocked. Henry was so frightened that he sat on the ground and shrank into a corner. "You're Ghost Barley?" Aduz asked. Henry's face was extremely pale. "Mr. Aduz, you know her?" "No," Aduz said. "What are you doing here?" "I'm following Lady Pamela's orders," Barley said. "I'm here to check on the injured." She was also a member of the evil spirit group in Mapleville, but she didn't die from the plague. She'd died 20 years earlier. She was an old evil spirit. "Don't walk around if you don't have anything to do," Aduz said. "Also turn your neck." "Oh." Barley straightened her head. Then she floated away. Henry looked at Aduz in disbelief. "Mr. Aduz, what's going on? Evil spirit. Didn't you see? This dorm is haunted." "It's not just the dorm," Aduz said calmly. "There are evil spirits everywhere." Then don't they kill people?" Henry's mind was filled with scenes from horror movies. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.